All right. I think we're live. I don't know why I'm not showing up. Give me a second to see if I can fix the camera. But welcome to Press X Podcast. This isn't the way it was supposed to go down, people. This isn't the way it was supposed to go down. You're supposed to see me right now. Hold on, I'm sure I can fix it. Hold on. Let me see if I can. There we go. Sorry about that little mishap. I don't know why I did that. I literally triple checked everything. And yet as soon as I go live, it's like, oh, camera's deactivated. But welcome to Press X Podcast, a PlayStation focused podcast is what I'll call it, where we talk about some other things that aren't just PlayStation. But I want to give a big thank you to everybody who was waiting patiently. As always, let people kind of file in. I didn't do a podcast episode last week, which was a little bit strange, but it was Halloween, and I thought, we'll take it easy, just enjoy the holiday, go out trick-or-treating with the family, How was everybody's Halloween? Did you guys have a good Halloween? I had a pretty good Halloween. It rained a little bit, but not too much. So it was okay. And I felt especially bad announcing that I wasn't going to be doing the podcast last week because the day before I had asked for community submissions. But don't worry. Those community submissions were not in vain. I'm actually using them today. I have a new format I want to follow, and I'm going to let you guys know what that format is. But you're saying you were sick, Devil Shooter. That's a shame. I hope you're feeling better. It was cold. It was okay. And you hope I have a great day. I hope you have a great day too, Irfan. I hope I'm saying, I see you all the time, man. Irfan, I don't know if I'm saying your name right, but it was okay, cold and rainy. Barely any trick-or-treaters. Very uneventful. Yeah, I mean, it was not the strongest of Halloweens, I guess, but I had a pretty good time. Okay, so let's do a little bit of housekeeping first here. First and foremost, if you enjoy Press X Podcast, and it's a podcast you like, you want to help continue to support it and see it grow. Well, obviously watching it helps, and I appreciate it. But you can also leave the podcast a like. By hitting that like button, it's just an easy way to not only let me know you enjoy it, but it does help with YouTube's algorithm. Things have been, I would say growth has been somewhat slow this year, which is kind of understandable. I mean, last year everything was so rapid. Like last year was crazy, man. Do you guys remember? I mean, the entire year itself was insane, but I was looking back at some of my older podcasts and I guess I just didn't realize like, hey, everybody's home and they have nothing to do. And everybody's home and we're building up to a next gen console launch. I was looking at some of my podcast streams. I'm like, how did that stream get 80,000 views? Like that's just insane to me. But growth for the podcast this year has been a little bit slow, but those of you who continue to show up each week, absolutely the backbone of this podcast. And without you, I wouldn't be able to do it. So big thank you. But yeah, just basically what I'm trying to say is hit the like button. It's a very rare. You're saying, what's up, MBG? I hope you're having a great day so far. I recently purchased the PS5 with the help of my aunt. Being patient is definitely a virtue. Well, I'm happy to hear that, man. I hope you're enjoying it. I see people all the time come to me and say, hey, I just got my PS5 or their next-gen console in general, but specifically with the PS5, telling me, what their experience has been like. And I agree. It's good to be patient. And I feel like that actually kind of helps explain, maybe not explain, but I think that's maybe like a key word we can use for the entire year when it comes to PlayStation. I mean, gaming in general, right? With the amount of delays, but with PlayStation, I don't know. To me, it just feels like PlayStation this year, has just been a little bit off. You know, something's been a little bit off with Sony this year, and I think I know why. Maybe we'll get into that later, but I'm going to give you a quick rundown of some of the stuff we're going to be talking about today. MBG, did you see my Twitter post with timestamps of pop-in issues, rendering of assets, and draw distance issues running on the Series X? Definitely doesn't have the polish of a 10 out of 10 game. I actually didn't see that. I haven't been on Twitter too much lately. We'll talk about Forza. Maybe I'll check them out when we get to the topic where we talk about Forza Horizon 5. I did make a video. I should probably address this as well because a bunch of people were asking me. I did put out a video on Forza Horizon 5, and that, looking at the response I got with that video was really bizarre because it was clear that people were, I think, misunderstanding or misinterpreting what I was trying to say. But the ultimate reason I decided to remove the video was because I realized that I was like, you know what? Xbox has a good game, a game that's getting a lot of praise. A lot of people are talking about it, and I enjoy the Forza Horizon games. So I thought, you know what? I'll make a positive Xbox video, right? And I realize now that a lot of Xbox fans were taking it as a backhanded compliment because of the way I worded it and the way I talked about it, where I basically said Playground Games is doing the heavy lifting for Microsoft and specifically Xbox. And I realize now that, people were coming at me, were like, bro, what about Age of Empires? What about, what about Psychonauts 2 and Flight Simulator? Bro, we got Halo. And I'm like, all right. Yeah, Space Gambler Jr., you're right. I can't win, man. And dude, the weirdest response I got were some people coming at me and are like, we don't want you back on Xbox. And I'm like, bro, I'm just trying to say some good things, man. Oddly enough, some PlayStation fans were not happy either. And that's what made it really weird. And I'm like, oh, this is a weird situation where some PlayStation fans were like, no MBG, bad MBG. Xbox sucks. Xbox never does anything good. And I'm like, this is just becoming an awkward situation. So I figured, you know what? We'll save Forza Horizon 5 for the podcast. We'll definitely talk about it as a topic today. I got a couple super chats here. Michael Lynch, you're saying the last week's question, Microsoft bought any company which would make you buy an Xbox. Respawn, every shooter they make is great. Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually a pretty good pick, Michael. Respawn is a great studio, and I actually did enjoy the Titanfall games. Vince Zampella, obviously. I don't know if he runs that studio anymore, though. I know he oversees it at the very least, but yeah, that would be a pretty big pickup for Microsoft. I don't know. To be honest, that's a difficult question for me to answer. Like, what game or what series would bring me over to Xbox? I mean, when I think of Bethesda, for a lot of people, it's like Starfield, not me. For me, it's Evil Within 3. Yo, you announced the Evil Within 3. Yeah, I'll buy an Xbox. I'll play it, or I'll play it on my PC, whatever. I would probably buy an Xbox. I'm just not a PC gamer. I'm just not. KD, you're saying, Big MEG, hope everything is Gucci with you and your fam. You ever consider starting a Discord server for your channel? Well, thank you for that, man. Everything is going good with the family. Appreciate you asking. Hope everything's going good with you as well. A Discord server, you're not the first person to ask, and I know you won't be the last. As of right now, I don't have any plans, but I know that Discord integration with PlayStation is coming. And so I just don't really use Discord very often for anything, really. And so I think it would be a good idea once PlayStation brings out the Discord integration for however they plan to implement that. I'll probably look into something like that. So we'll see. Maybe I can make that like a channel member perk. I don't know. Something I know that's a popular thing that a lot of content creators do. Jeez, man. I feel like I got so much dust on like my microphone and I have it so close to my face. I'm just like breathing it in. All right. Young G, you're saying, do you think Ragnarok's release date will be revealed at the Game Awards? That's a possibility. I don't know that I don't think that would be a good idea. Only because I feel like the Game Awards is more about, I don't know. For me, it's if Sony's going to be at the Game Awards, and we'll talk about this later, it has to be because they're going to announce something new, I think. They can show like a new trailer for something. Like a new God of War trailer would be huge, but And a release date would be huge too. I just don't know that that would be what's called for in that moment, per se. But it could happen. It would still be a big deal if it did happen. Nick Taylor, you're saying you got to stand on what you believe. Everybody has opinions. Yeah, I know. To be like, it was just one of these things where it's like, you know what? I think that the conversation has more nuance to it. And it felt like a situation where it's like, no matter what, I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. And when it comes to those type of situations, I'd rather just, stream that, so it can just flow better, I guess, if that makes sense. Although there are some times where I do take some hardline stances for sure. Anyway, all right, I'm going on long enough here. Let me give you a quick rundown. So here's going to be the new format of the podcast, all right? And we're going to have to see how it works out. If it needs some alterations, I will make those alterations. I want to start out the podcast with doing 3 community submissions. Then we're going to go into the main topics, and we're going to discuss the main topics, and then we're going to end the podcast with 3 more community submissions. That's kind of how I want to do it, and we'll see how that ends up working. You guys can give me some feedback on that down in the comments below once this podcast is finished. But now I want to give a shout out to my members. If you want to, again, help support the channel in any way, a great way to do that is by becoming a channel member. There are 3 different tiers, and I do a member shout out for the 2 higher tiers. So we have the Play Has No Limits Plus. These are individuals who are subscribed to the highest membership tier. Really appreciate it, guys. Big shout out to D. Luffy, Junior Jackson, Samuel Payne, Josh Z, Agile Ice 24, Skin Tight Salmon, PlayStation Pete, RU46 N2 Ray, iSiler 18, Chlorian A, and Whiskey Gaming. Again, really appreciate the support you guys show. And then we have the Play Has No Limits tier. Also very appreciative of every individual who is subscribed to this channel tier membership or this channel membership tier. So shout out to John Renzi, Black Waifus, Adrian D, AWS Ashers, and Arcan Blitzer, Ivanoa Kachofel, Space Gambler Jr., AJ Saeed, Rune Gasodin, JDTV, Quantum Stardust, Sir Speaks a Lot, Ashorty Faye, Big Norman 0518, Shaky Shako, Tyson Webb 509, Black Manta 1989, Sane JT, Brandon Chadbrez, and Adrian Lupton. Really cannot thank you guys enough for the support that you show the channel. And we also have Colin. Oh, and you're saying, when Insomniac confirmed that Wolverine will be PS5 only, and that game is for 2024 or 2025, I think it's safe to say that day and date won't happen soon. Yeah, that's the first main topic we're going to get into. Pretty significant leak of PlayStation games that are going to PC apparently, and I do think this is for sure a legitimate stream. I'm reading the chat as I'm speaking, and sometimes I just say words. A legitimate leak that we're going to talk about on the stream. And I do think there's something to what you're saying, Colin. I think that I think people need to chill out with the day and date talk. And I don't know that I have a good reason for that. I just get the feeling that Sony's not going to do it in the way that people are thinking. We'll get into that conversation. Andrew, you're saying can't wait for 2022. Triple Anus awaits, and you remember for 6 months. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, dude, 2022 I think is looking really good for Sony. We know that games-wise, it's looking really good. We know that Sony has a lot of really great games lined up. My question for Sony when it comes to next year goes beyond just the games we know that are coming. I really want to know just how hard Sony's going to go in when it comes to announcements and keeping the general excitement on a monthly basis. Because I'm going to be honest, I feel like Sony this year did not do a very good job with that. I mean, they did a good job with game releases, and when those games were close to launch, I think they did a good job in supporting those games. Returnal, Ratchet and Clank, obviously the endless support for Deathloop. But I think that Sony's going to need to do a little bit more next year, maybe even a lot more, because I don't know, man. I'm going to do like an end of the year review for PlayStation, obviously. And maybe I don't know, maybe I just expect too much, but my whole thing with Sony is I feel like they didn't do a very good job controlling the narrative this year. To whereas I feel like if you look back at 2020, Sony was operating very differently because they had a console that was going to launch. And because of that, they were very sure to be like, okay, we have to make sure There's no mistakes. We have to make sure there's very little bad news. And we have to just make sure we are strong arming the narrative. And they did that because they knew they had to. And I feel like with 2021, they can't produce enough consoles. They know they're going to have to bring more games to PC. I mean, it's just crazy to me to think that when you look back at what was it, April of this year, we heard the news that not only is MLB The Show a first-party PlayStation studio title going to Xbox, but it's launching into Game Pass. And I remember the uproar with that, and I'm like, it's stuff like that Sony really has to avoid, because it's just, again, that's the kind of stuff that, regardless of the long-term positive implications that could have, in the short term, it's it's not a good look, It only creates negative conversation in the moment. And I just wish Sony would do a better job in keeping that under control. Not that I care. I know people are like, why do you care? Well, mainly because when it starts to feel like the focus is more on the bad and negative things that Sony is doing or announcing, right? That takes away from me in the sense that I want the conversation to be focused on the exciting stuff, the stuff that, we all look forward to. And the more negative press there is, the more of a negative conversation there is, the harder it is to keep the focus on that. So that's really what it comes down to. Rory, you're saying, how about Microsoft not actually launching games into Game Pass under the guise of early access? Yeah, I didn't really look too much into that, man. But I saw some people were not happy about that, right? Maybe somebody can give me a better idea of what's going on there with the early access with Forza Horizon 5, because you know what? Don't tell me yet. Save it. Save it for when we talk about save it for when we actually talk about Forza Horizon 5. I need to try to keep this podcast on the rails, okay? New Soul 9, you're saying, hey, MBG, you ever thought of having other people on the podcast to have a discussion about PlayStation and Xbox? I've thought about it. That's a step that we'll probably take in the future. I don't know who I could bring on or who would even want to come on, but I've considered it, and I'm definitely keeping all possibilities open for the future of the podcast and the channel in general. So I can't announce anything now. I can't say that anything's going to happen right now because I haven't really been looking into it, but something I'm definitely open to. And then we also have Black Manta 1989. You're saying, I feel that Sony will front load the first half of 2022, but after that, we're hoping God of War Ragnarok and Final Fantasy 16 does release. Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what Sony's overall 2022 lineup looks like. I think no matter what, Sony's lineup next year is going to be very strong, and they're going to do well. And I think God of War and hopefully Final Fantasy will ensure that. But I want to know, I just want to know what else Sony is cooking. Because, dude, they I don't know, man. They're playing everything so close to the chest, They haven't really announced any new games, you know what I mean? I mean, they've announced Wolverine, and that's new, and I'm not trying to downplay that, but I don't know, man. I don't know. Okay. So with that being said, I'm going to dive into the first 3 community submissions, okay? So the first community submission we have is from Irfan, and he says, as we all know, the demand for PS5 is really high, certainly higher than its stock. With all the first-party titles and third-party exclusives on the way, do you think the PS5 will be the best-selling and most successful console in history? And he actually has 2 parts to his question. The second part is, how long do you think Sony will continue to make story-based games? As someone who only experiences story-driven games and is not interested in multiplayer or online games, I'm afraid that someday we will not see story-driven games from Sony. What do you think? So it's a great question, Irfan, and thank you for your submission. The first part of your question, when it comes to the PS5 possibly being the most successful or best-selling console in history, I think it has a decent chance. I don't want to say a good chance, because any console being able to catch the PS2, it's that's a big ask. And I don't know that the PS5, for as popular as it is and for as high as the demand is, I don't know that the PS5 can catch the PS2. We have to understand that the DVD player offered inside of the PlayStation 2 really made that thing skyrocket, and no home console has really gotten close to it. Even the PS4, for as strong as the PS4 sales have been, they've come to almost a complete dead stop, right? And it'll be interesting to see if the PS4 can even get to 120 million. when it's all said and done. However, the PS5, I mean, like you said, there's just so much support when you're talking about games like Spider-Man 2. Now you're talking about a Wolverine game. You know, we're seeing exclusive Star Wars games now outside of the IP that Sony already owns and is growing, like God of War and Horizon Forbidden West and whatever else they may have. I mean, I think it's possible. I do think it's possible, but I think it's going to require just something insane happening at some point. Something that goes beyond the release of a Spider-Man 2, something that can essentially make the PS5 more of a must-have than the PS2 was with that DVD player. You know what I mean? And I don't know what could do that. I don't know what could push that over the edge. So I want to say there's a decent chance, but I don't know that it's actually likely. However, with that being said, I do think the PS5 will be an incredibly well-selling console. Like, I think it's going to be a very successful console when it's all said and done. And I do certainly think it can surpass the PS4. I think it definitely can, which is no easy feat in and of itself. To answer your second question, do I think Sony will start to focus more on multiplayer and kind of abandon single player? Absolutely not. No, I don't think that's ever going to happen. The reason why I say that, excuse me, something's trying to deter me here. The reason why I say that is because, you know, you look at who's running PlayStation, Jim Ryan, and he appointed Herman Hulst to take care of their first party. Herman Hulst absolutely understands, and he hasn't given me any reason to believe he doesn't understand. I mean, he is the creative mind behind Horizon Zero Dawn and the Horizon series. He absolutely understands the DNA of PlayStation lies within single-player, story-driven, narrative-heavy experiences. And I've always said that Sony will not pursue PlayStation multiplayer games at the expense of single-player titles. That's just not going to happen. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm not saying any of this concretely, but those are my thoughts. So thank you again for the submission. We have community submission number 2. You're right. Herman Hulst also did love Killzone. That's true, but again, he's the one who spearheaded, the creation of Horizon. So, the second submission comes from Hanzo Reza or Riza. Hopefully, I'm saying your name correctly. Oh man, he says this is thanks to Steve Weil. So please thank and credit him if you read this out loud. So credit to him. Did you see that Jeff Keighley's video promoting the Game Awards? There are coordinates that take you to a place that directly links to Silent Hill. This really intrigued me to do a little bit of digging, and it may provide something else for you on the live stream on Sunday to do a little bit with the community whilst streaming. So, yeah, this was certainly fascinating. I don't really know what to make of this. So this is true, guys. If you go and you check the trailer that was put out for the Game Awards 2021, at some point when it says, I think it says save the date, on the left and right side, there are coordinates. And if you go to where these coordinates take you, a lot of people are saying, oh, it takes you to the Microsoft Theater or whatever. Right? That's where it takes you because that's where the Game Awards are being held. And that's actually not where it takes you. It takes you I think it's somewhere in LA, but it takes you within this area where when you look around, I kid you not, like the area that's highlighted, there is a street that says, I think S Hill Street. S Hill Street. And I'm just like, okay. And I think there was another one that it was like takes you to Main Street. There's a few things here with this that's just something's a little bit off. But then again, and I want to mention this as well, okay? So Jeff Keighley, you got to be careful with him. At least I think you have to be careful with Jeff Keighley. I say this because he kind of played in a little bit to the whole abandoned thing when it was like taking off, and people really started to look into that. Like, like Jeff Keighley's talking about it now, and I can't get a good read on Jeff Keighley. Like, he was like, he said he was waiting for the photos and everything. and he was interacting with his son and all that. And here's the thing that I can't figure out with Jeff Keighley. I was of the mindset that Jeff Keighley is like, he's an industry person, as in he won't get himself involved with stuff if it's not legitimate. Like his reputation is too substantial and he's too involved with major publishers and the corporate side, I guess you could say, of the gaming industry, like the I guess you say politically correct side, whatever you want to call it, just that part of the industry. And the idea that he did what he did with Abandoned and with Blue Box, the idea that he did that not knowing, like I'm supposed to believe, and I guess it could be true, and this is what makes me view Jeff Keighley's position in the gaming industry differently than I may have seen it. I thought Jeff Keighley would know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought, like, this is the dude who runs the Game Awards and runs multiple events a year where this is a dude who gets Elden Ring. You know what I mean? I'm supposed to know, or I'm supposed to believe that he doesn't know what this Abandoned thing is. And he started kind of like, yeah, I'm going to get those photos. And, he didn't play into it too much. I'm not trying to like condemn him or anything. It's not like he was out here hyping it or anything, but he allowed himself to be part of it, even if it was for a brief moment. And to me, that was just crazy because I'm like, we are now, flash forward, we're at a point where Blue Box Game Studios, the latest tweet they put out is, please stop sending us death threats. And I'm like, what? Hold on. This is weird. So to get back to the coordinates, I don't know if that's something I can really look into that much. Like I really want more than anybody else to be like, I think there might be something to this, guys. But I feel like it's just best at this point to just leave it alone. And I'm going to go into the Game Awards. I know how Jeff Keighley is. Every time, this is no offense to Jeff Keighley, because I appreciate the work he does. I mean, this dude works hard and you can tell he does care. And it's no offense to him. But every time I tune into a Jeff Keighley run event, it hardly ever feels worth it, or it just feels like it goes on for too long and there's not enough payoff. So, it's hard. It's hard to get overly excited. Black Manta, again, you're saying Jeff Keighley hypes up a show equals 2.5 hours of a 3-hour show being mediocre. LOL. Yeah, and that's the thing, dude, is like, I understand the struggle. I don't know what it's like to have to put on a show like that. I can imagine it's very daunting, and we know how unreasonable gamers can be. But yeah, I mean, more often than not, the show runs longer than it should, and it feels like there's just a lot of stuff in there. And I'm like, oh man, I don't know. The stuff isn't very exciting. Jack Rabbit, you're saying Abandoned isn't over yet. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, apparently we're still waiting for the PP, the playable prologue. So when that day comes and we get that playable prologue, I'll check it. I'll see what it's about. I mean, I feel like no matter what Abandoned ends up being, if it ends up actually being a game, it'll be fun to just explore whatever it ends up being, regardless. So, excuse me. Okay, so that's community submission number 2. We're going to get into community submission number 3. This comes from Captain QA. He says, considering the last State of Play and how terrible it was, do you think Sony should have another major event this year, or should they just move on to next year? Now, I wanted to, you have to understand, when I got this community submission, this was right after we got done witnessing that State of Play. And, I look at where we are now. It's November 7th, 2021. There's only so many weeks left in the year. The idea that Sony's going to have some type of event before the end of the year, I think is, I don't think it's going to happen. And it pains me to say that, because I really do think that Sony, maybe this is just me, but I just feel like what Sony did in September, it wasn't as strong as it could have been. It wasn't as much. You know what I mean? It felt like it was just enough to get them over the hump where it's like, hey, we did a showcase this year, people. We did it. And it's like, you're right. You did do it. You did do it. You stacked everything in 10 minutes. You revealed KOTOR. You revealed Wolverine. You revealed Spider-Man. It's hard to complain. But in general, I feel like Sony just simply didn't do as much as I think fans were expecting. And there could be many reasons for that. It could be because a lot of their games just aren't ready to show yet. It could be because they want to save a lot of their stuff. Maybe a lot of the games that they have to reveal, they feel these reveals and announcements will go better. They'll go off better when there's more PS5s ready to sell. But I just don't think there's going to be an event for the year. I could see Sony doing one more state of play, but that doesn't do anything for me at this point, to be completely honest. I don't, like, if Sony were to be like, hey, we're doing a state of play, I mean, it's going to be impossible not to get a little bit excited. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be impossible not to hope just a little bit, just a little something, you know? But the past two state of plays, you know, people get frustrated because they're like, well, what did you expect? And I'm like, well, I guess I did expect too much, you know? So going forward, I don't really have any expectation for a state of play. You're saying MBG, they are letting their studios work on their games that are not ready to be shown. No, I totally agree. I'm not saying we need to rush announcements. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying that when we look back on 2021, I think we can all agree that, well, it wasn't a bad year. That's the thing, is like, some people look at PlayStation, they had a bad year. I'm like, no, they didn't. It wasn't a bad year at all. It was actually a great year. But the hype for the PS5 and how much Sony did in 2020, it was it was just so high that it's like, how do you know, it only makes sense that it would have to simmer down a little bit, you know, come the next year. Henry Haskin, you're saying, hey, BG, it's my birthday. Can I get a shout out? Yeah, shout out to you, Henry. Really appreciate you being here. Happy birthday, buddy. Glad you're spending some time here, hanging out with me, listening to me ramble on. But yeah, so to answer your question, just to get back to the community submission, do I think Sony should have another major event? I mean, my answer to that from a enthusiast fan point of view is always going to be yes, they should do another event. But at the same time, there have been times where Sony, I think, felt pressured to do an event. They felt pressured, like, well, we have to do something. And then they do it, and it just doesn't really live up. Like, a lot of people are like, that was it. And I don't want that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want Sony to do something just for the sake of doing it. I would much rather them wait and be patient and force the fans to be more patient with them. So that way, when they do show up, it's like, okay, now we're going to melt your faces. You know what I mean? Now we're going to blow your minds. I'd much rather have something like that happen than Sony do, like, okay, here's an obligatory end of the year event. I see some people are still holding out hope for a PlayStation experience. And to be completely honest, not that I'm not always completely honest, but I just feel like saying that puts more emphasis on what I'm about to say, makes people perk up a little bit more and be like, oh, he's going to be completely honest now. I absolutely want in the next like 3 to 4 weeks, Sony to just come out and be like, PlayStation Experience 2021, be there. You know, I want that. I'm not going to lie. I absolutely want that to happen. I want that more than anything, you know, because if Sony were to do that, we all know what that means. You know what I mean? Like, every PlayStation fan collectively in that moment is like, oh, it's about to go down. You know what I mean? Like, it's suplexing time, you know? That's what that means. But realistically speaking, I just don't think that's going to happen. And so it really does kind of, you know, this is what makes dealing with PlayStation as an enthusiast so difficult these days, is that Sony truly is more unpredictable than they ever have been. You know, like, Sony doesn't do E3 anymore. So does that mean they're going to do a mid-year event? In 2019, they didn't do any events. In 2020, they had a mid-year event, and then they had an event in September. They had 2 events in 1 year. And then this year, it's like they did have a smaller event in September when, like, you know what I mean? And it just kind of came out of nowhere. Like, we had no idea, like, should we expect an event? And then they just brought it. And then they've done multiple state of plays. And I don't think, and then they also do a state of play for Horizon. So Sony is truly unpredictable. And so should they do another event? I mean, if they have something worth showing, if they have something ready to show and worth showing, absolutely they should do it. But if not, then they probably shouldn't, And so I think that the most we can expect is maybe an announcement at the VGAs. That's what I'm expecting. PlayStation Experience is happening. They need to show PSVR. Yeah, that's something else. You're saying MBG being unpredictable is more fun, especially if the bigger games don't leak. No, I agree. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, Sony's been so tight-lipped about everything, and there's like very few insiders or leakers or anything. I think we have some big surprises in store, but that's one last thing I want to mention before moving on to the main topics of the show. I mean, yeah, what PSVR 2 is a thing that is apparently isn't, if I'm not mistaken, PlayStation VR 2 is set to launch next year. That's probably during the holiday, I would imagine. So Sony has to kind of get the ball rolling sometime soon and talking about this VR headset, right? So I do think that if they were to do a PlayStation Experience, that would be a great place to show PSVR 2 off. Now, here's the question with that, just to kind of go on a little detour really quickly. I wonder what the hype for PSVR 2 is going to be like. Because I'll tell you, like, I wasn't really paying too much attention to PlayStation VR the first time. So I can't really speak to how hyped people were. Maybe those of you who were paying closer attention at the time back in 2016, or maybe those of you who bought the headset, maybe you can let me know in the chat how much hype was there for PSVR? Like, was it something that it was like, wow, people are really excited for this? Or was it kind of like, yeah, it's cool, You're saying it was very hyped? Yeah, I'm not really sure, because saying MBG, I heard that Roger Clark and Troy Baker are working on a game together. I heard that they're working on that was the new Call of Duty game that they were teasing out. I don't know if that's true or not. PSVR equals failure. I don't think so. If it was a failure, I don't think Sony would be doing another one. You're saying there was mild hype? That sounds about right to me. I feel like the hype was like mild. And so I really am curious to see like what it's going to be like this time around. Because I'm going to be honest, I just don't feel like PSVR took off the way Sony wanted it to. But they were also committed to it because they're like, look, this is just the first iteration. We could be on the verge of something truly big here. And I think that they could be. So we'll have to see. I do think that if Sony is very serious about PSVR 2, giving it its own dedicated event, similar to what they did for the PS5. Although, here's one last thing I want to mention before we move on to the main topics. And I want to ask the chat this. If Sony were to do a PlayStation Experience or like a end of the year December event, would you be okay if this event was just focused on PSVR 2 and PSVR 2 games? Or would you feel kind of disappointed because it's just focused on VR? That, to me, I feel like I would be a little bit disappointed, but mostly excited, because I'd be like, I don't know. I feel like, well, see, I don't know though. Like if Sony's strategy is to not make dedicated VR games like AAA games, but make it so that the VR headset is compatible with their AAA games, I don't think that they would do that. I see a lot of people saying they wouldn't be excited or they would be upset with that. Yeah, I could see that frustration. All right, well, those are my 3 community submissions. As long as we have time for it, I plan to do 3 more community submissions at the end of the show, or when we get to the end of it. Aaron, you're saying plus they have their cloud strategy to announce. That's true. Yeah, they're sitting on that. They've been sitting on that for quite some time. So we'll see when they plan to do that. Primal Plasma, you're saying, I was playing around with the Oculus Quest this weekend. It is great, but I don't think it's ready for prime time yet. I have a hangover today. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man. It's like, I want to be excited for PSVR 2, but I just don't know how much I'm actually going to care about it, in the sense of like, at first, I think it'll be super exciting, but I don't know if I'm going to like want to keep playing it actively, you know? So we'll have to see. We'll have to see. All right, so we're going to move on to topic number 1. Before we do that, guys, do me a favor. We have almost 700 people here watching and hanging out with me, which I really appreciate. I mean, it's been dead, right? Like this past week and the week before that, I mean, PlayStation news has been pretty dead. Really not much going on in general. So I just want to give a big thank you to those of you who are here hanging out with me on this Sunday. And just do me a favor, hit that like button for me. Topic number 1. PlayStation PC leak. Okay, so the first topic I want to discuss stems from a leak that was very quickly taken down, which I still have up on my computer, actually. There's no way for sure to know if this leak is real, but considering the contents of this leak and how fast it was scrubbed, it seems like it is in fact the real deal. The leak was once again from GeForce Now and revealed a ton of unannounced games. On that list were quite a few PlayStation titles that are apparently set to make their way to PC, and there were release dates associated with this leak. However, if you look over all of the games on the leak, because there were a ton of games, it wasn't just PlayStation games. The leak had Microsoft games, games from every publisher. The release dates are 100% placeholders. However, some of these dates are so specific that you almost have to wonder. It's almost like you have to kind of gauge, like, okay, some of these dates are real, and then some of these dates are obviously placeholders. A good example is the next Elder Scrolls game was on there with a release date of sometime in 2024. It's like, we know that that's not real. We know that that's just a placeholder. But then again, we have Ghost of Tsushima with a release date on PC of February 8th, 2022. And that sounds extremely plausible. Now, again, we do have to emphasize that this leak might not be true, but there was another very similar leak that happened a few weeks ago regarding unannounced games, and it was another GeForce leak, and a lot of stuff that was on that leak is proving to be real and true. And this is a very similar situation. Okay, so we don't want to jump to conclusions and assume that all of this is real, but it seems likely. And there is one title, maybe two titles on here specifically that I think, if this is real and Sony's planning on making these announcements next year, there's definitely going to be some conversations going on. There's a lot of meltdowns on Twitter from PlayStation fanboys, for sure. For sure. So let's go over this list. I wrote down all of the games that pertain to PlayStation. I also want to say this quickly before I go over this list, because I have to say this, because when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, dreams come true. Apparently dreams do come true on this list. So we have on the list, we had Resident Evil 4 Remake, which we kind of already knew about. Like, we knew that this was something that Capcom was doing. But underneath that, Resident Evil Outbreak was listed. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, like, finally, the time has come. Now, I don't know if it's like a Resident Evil Outbreak remake or remaster or like a reboot or Outbreak 3, but I'm just saying, if anybody here played Resident Evil Outbreak, please let me know, and let me know what your experience was like, because when I played those games, they were way ahead of their time. You're talking about a multiplayer Resident Evil game that retained the core horror spirit of that game. So I just wanted to say that was on the list. Can't believe that was actually there. Okay. Yeah, saying Outbreak was good. It was super fun. Yes, it was. You're saying, see, this is where I get depressed, because you're like, I think that's supposed to read Resident Evil Outrage, not Outbreak. And it's like, I guess dreams maybe don't come true, man. I mean, if I can't get Silent Hill, if I can't get Metal Gear Remake, can I at least get a Resident Evil Outbreak? Anyway, let's get on to this list. So the first game up is Ghost of Tsushima is going to be coming to PC according to this leak, and the release date, as I said, is February 8th, 2022. So talking about Ghost of Tsushima, yeah, I mean, obviously Ghost of Tsushima is going to come to PC. There's absolutely no reason in the world at this point why it shouldn't. So, yeah, I think that that'll be a game that'll, will do well on PC. Oh, by the way, before I continue on with this list, I do want to let you guys know, apparently some sales data of the PlayStation games that have already released, okay, that have already released on PC, the sales data for these games leaked out. And I want to talk about that as well, because very interesting data. Very interesting data. We have Helldivers 2. Now, Helldivers 2 is fascinating to me because this is the second time we're seeing this game leak out. And this is going to apparently release on PC, and you would assume console as well, on May 3rd, 2022. This game hasn't been announced yet. And that's interesting to me because that's pretty soon, right? So this is the second time we're seeing this game leak out and the announcement hasn't happened yet. Could this be a game that Sony announces at the Game Awards? If Sony does do a December event of any kind, maybe this is one of the games that will be announced there. So I don't know. That game was there. We'll have to wait to see. If Helldivers 2 gets announced anytime soon, then we'll know that for sure that this leak is legitimate. Now, here's the one. Excuse me. Here's the one that is going to cause an unbelievable amount of meltdowns if it turns out to be true. Horizon Forbidden West is on this list. It's not the fact that Horizon Forbidden West is on this list, it's the release date that they have here. And again, this is a pretty specific release date. I do think all of these dates are placeholders, but they're within the window. September 30th, 2022. So if you do the math, that's about a 7-month console exclusivity period before it goes to PC. Now, that is strange to me. Well, maybe not too strange. I actually could see this being real. I could see Sony wanting to do this mainly because I think Sony wants to continue to push as close as they can to day and date without actually doing day and date, just to see. You're saying, yeah, that's not happening. I'm not going to lie. It sounds unrealistic to me for one reason and one reason only. I think Sony would see that as too risky. I think Sony absolutely wants to use Horizon Forbidden West to push PS5 units as much as they can. And I just feel like it could be a very risky experiment that Sony wants to discover that. I see, I'm doing that thing where I'm reading and I'm trying to think of what I'm going to say at the same time. Anyway, MBG, that list is old. Gear 6 and Everwild are on it. Meanwhile, Horizon Forbidden West got delayed, so that would have been pushed back too. You know what? Actually, that is a very good. That is a very good point. Actually, that's something I didn't consider. Is that this list is actually older? You can tell by some of the. For example, they have the GTA. They have the Grand Theft Auto Remaster Trilogy on here, but they have the release date set for November 1st. Now, the Remaster Trilogy is real. The November release date is real, but it's not releasing on November 1st. So this does tell you that this list is old. And if that's the case, if Sony does plan to bring Horizon Forbidden West to PC, then there's a very good chance that the September date is not accurate, because it just seems really strange, right? Like, why? You know what it tells me? You know what this tells me? It tells me that Sony wanted to try to get Horizon Forbidden West out September of this year. I think Sony wanted a September 2021 launch for Horizon Forbidden West. They realized that wasn't going to happen. And if you think about that, that would have been, they would have brought Horizon to PC about 1 year after it was out. And that makes a lot more sense to me, because like 7 months is just a strange, like, why 7 months? You know what I mean? It seems a little too soon for a game as big as Horizon Forbidden West. So a lot of these dates could be pushed back later. But, I think the interesting question is, what does this mean? If Sony does bring a game like Horizon Forbidden West, to me, it doesn't mean anything. Honestly, like to me, what it means is, yeah, Sony is serious about PC. And so, what's weird to me is there's a group of people online, and I'm assuming they're a vocal minority where and I've actually come across like 3 or 4, and that I can't believe it's this many YouTube channels dedicated to basically making fun of PlayStation fanboys on Twitter and their meltdowns. And it's like, okay, I guess that's content, but there's literally channels dedicated to this. They're obviously all over Twitter, but there are people who are literally like, they keep throwing this up in people's, like people like me and others, where it's like, yeah, wait until they do day and date. Wait until they do day and date on PC. Yeah, that's going to be the day. The meltdown. You're going to lose your mind. You're going to punch air. You're going to, and I'm just like, no, I'm not. And you can tell, and I'm not trying to get defensive over this, but I just it feels like I have to make it, and these are very small YouTube channels that I'm talking about, by the way. I'm not trying to make it sound like they're like bigger channels, but this is something I do have to bring up and make known once again, only because I see this more and more. If you're somebody who thinks, hey, if I say to MBG, hey man, wait till they do day and date, you're going to lose your shit. It's like, you haven't been following me long enough. You simply haven't been following me long enough, because you'll know there will be people who say, yeah, dude, MBG is going to lose it because MBG is the guy that left Xbox when they put their games on PC. Wrong. I never left Xbox because they put their games on PC. I never cared that Xbox put their games on PC. I did say that it could, I think it might devalue the console. I think it might hurt the console, but I never left them because of that. I left them because their games were terrible. Okay? That's why I left. I didn't like their games. Simple as that. And so I feel like I have to say this because I frankly just don't care at this point if Sony decides to do day and date. But that doesn't mean they will. Just because I don't care doesn't mean they will, right? The truth is, I don't think Sony has any intention of doing day and date on PC. I just don't see it. And I'm going to give you a good reason why in just a minute. All right? Because we have some sales data. And if this sales data is anything to go by, I really don't think is going to, I don't really think Sony is going to do day and date, mainly because I'm not sure what they'll gain from it if they do. But anyway, had to go on that little side tangent because I see this pop up all the time, and I'm just like, please just like stop using that as some type of ammunition against me, like day and date, buddy. I'm like, yup. Day and date, yeah. Okay. Like, I don't know what you want me to say, but you know what is funny though? I will admit there are some people for sure that if Sony ever does do day and date, if they do, I mean, I don't know if they're going to. If they ever do day and date with some, even just one of their games, even if they like pick and choose, like, okay, this game's gonna be day and date. Yeah, there's gonna be some people on Twitter and on the internet who like come out here and they're going to be like, you know what? I'm going to have to literally take a sledgehammer to my PS5 now. Thanks a lot, Sony. You did this, Sony. You did this to me. I mean, there's going to be people who act like that. And it's like, all right, like, I get it. Like we have some concerns. We can have some conversations. You know, you're saying, MBG, those sales numbers are fake. Look at the average hours played. Doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I'll take a closer look at them. I don't know that the sales data is accurate. I'm just assuming that it is because as far as I know, we don't have any sales data when it comes to PlayStation games on PC. This is the only thing I've seen so far. But, all right, the next game we have, so we'll have to see, you know, like, the idea of Horizon Forbidden West going to PC wouldn't shock me at all. We'll have to see if this date ends up being accurate, though. Like 9/30/2022. I could see it being pushed back to maybe February 2023 if Sony kind of wants to do it. Okay, we'll put it on PC after a year. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. I think so. One last thing I want to say here too is it does make sense that Sony would want to start trying to put all of their games on PC, because if you look at what has happened, their games are like, they sell incredibly well on PlayStation. Like, I think a great example is Horizon Forbidden West. What did it take? I think it took Horizon. Please, somebody fact check me on this, or maybe I could probably check myself really quick. Horizon Zero Dawn sells 10 million. Did it take 2 years? Sony and developer Guerrilla Games announced that open world Horizon Zero Dawn sold over 10 million copies worldwide. So it took Horizon Zero Dawn about 2 years to sell 10 million copies. Now, you have to ask yourself, when was the first major price drop for Horizon Zero Dawn? That's the question that I need answered. I don't have the answer to that question. Like, I don't know if Horizon Zero Dawn dropped in price 6 months after launch, a year after launch, but pretty much once it got to that point where it was like selling at about $20, 20, maybe $30, I think that's when Sony kind of realized, like, we're not really, we're not really making much off of this game. The point is, Sony's games depreciate, okay, in value. Everybody complains that, oh, they're $70, they're $70, but the price drops. If you're willing to wait, Sony drops the price on their games. And I guess what I'm trying to say is, it would make sense that once Sony gets to that point where it's like, okay, we're going to drop the price for this PS5 game or whatever to like $30 or $35, then you could probably start moving games over to PC because to try to squeeze more from an audience that hasn't paid full price yet. You know what I mean? That would make sense. And for a game like Horizon Forbidden West, that might be after a year. That might be after a year. So we'll have to see. Let me finish going over this list though. So the next game we have, and now this one was really interesting because a lot of people assumed that this was the latest Ratchet and Clank game, Rift Apart, but I actually kind of forgot that no, there was a Ratchet and Clank reboot. I think it was a reboot, but it was just titled Ratchet and Clank 2016. Came out in 2016, and this is listed on here for a release date of October 3rd, 2022, which seems awfully late. But again, some people were assuming that this was Rift Apart, and at first I actually thought that, oh man, they're going to bring Rift Apart to PC. That's going to be a very bad look, because Sony marketed that game heavily as like, this can only, maybe not necessarily only be done on PS5, but it's like, hey, this is the game that's going to showcase why you want a PS5, and it's made exclusively for the PS5. So it would be a pretty bad look if in, about a year or something like that, or it's like, hey, we're moving it to PC. It's like, But now that I know that, 2016 Ratchet and Clank, that was a game, right? That's likely the game that's listed here. It might not be though, but that's all it says. It just says Ratchet and Clank. Now here's another interesting one. Returnal. Okay, Returnal is set to launch on PC, if this is accurate, on April 30th, 2022. Now, I believe that. I think that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I have to imagine some people are buying Returnal right now on PS5, but it's probably not doing that great sales-wise. Like, its sales peaked, and it probably doesn't have the longest tail. It's probably really not selling well right now. So the idea of like, let's give it more life, let's put it on PC about a year later. Again, I feel like that's a strategy that Sony is going to begin to implement on a pretty consistent basis for at least some games. Yeah, that is interesting to point out as well. You're saying there's no Demon Souls on there. That's true. The Demon Souls isn't listed here. Apparently it's not coming to PC. And so you have to ask yourself, why is that? And it's stuff like that if this leak is real, it makes you realize that like Sony is very much picking and choosing for one reason or another. They're not just like everything goes, they're picking and choosing. It's almost like they have, wait for it, some type of strategy behind it. And then the final game I have on the list here is Sackboy: A Big Adventure. You're saying Demon Souls was listed on the other leak? I didn't know that. Well, if that's the case, then I don't know. Maybe Sony is, maybe nothing is off the table. I mean, I don't understand why Sony wouldn't bring Demon Souls at some point to PC. It seems like the type of game that they would want to, right? I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. But the final game here we have here is, let me get comfortable. We have Sackboy Big Adventure listed for May 1st, 2022. MBG, you're highly underestimating the fact that at its best, PC is far more capable hardware than PS5. That's true, but it's also much more expensive, and that's the thing. You're gonna get a great bang for your buck when it comes to power. The power performance ratio, or the power performance to price ratio with the PS5 compared to just looking to build a PC, you can do something that I think is pretty close to it, pretty comparable in a lot of ways, but you know, PC gaming generally is just it's a more expensive investment than just a console. So, you know, I think this time around, Sony really wanted to make sure, at least on the SSD side of things, on the IO throughput side of things, that the PS5 was going to be ahead, and it would take a little bit of time for consoles or PC to reach that minimum price threshold this time around. But we'll see. We'll see. So that's the list. Now, let's go look at this sales data. Some people are saying that this sales data isn't legitimate, that it's fake, it's not real. Let's see. So I don't even know where this leaked out from, but I'll just read it. You know, like, I'm just going to look at it as maybe it's legitimate, maybe it's real, but maybe it's not. You know what? I see. Yeah, never mind. I see what you guys are saying. Average playtime, 8 seconds. What? The average playtime for Days Gone on PC is a whopping 8 seconds. Okay. Average playtime for Death Stranding, 7 minutes. And then the average playtime for Horizon Zero Dawn is 6 minutes and 1 second. Man, what's going on with Days Gone? People booting that game up, playing it for 8 seconds, being like, nah, this ain't for me. Yeah, so I don't know where this is even coming from. You're saying PC gamers can clock games like that? I mean, I don't know. It just seems weird to me. Sounds like PC players to me. Sounds about right. Is what the chat's saying. Anyway, I'll just read the numbers anyway. Like, we'll just say, hey, maybe they're real, maybe they're not. But apparently, we're looking at Horizon Zero Dawn sold about 1.3 million copies. 1.3 million copies. Days Gone sold 1.5 million copies, and Death Stranding sold 1.6 million. So, assuming that these numbers are accurate, what do you make of them? What do you make of them? Like, to me, they seem pretty low. I mean, I don't know. To me, it only sounds low because I'm comparing them to how many copies they sell on PlayStation. But I would say that considering these are older games, like, especially like looking at a game like Days Gone, I'd say that's pretty good, right? Like, I'd say releasing it, 2 years after it launched on the PC, getting 1.5 million. But I think what's fascinating about this is you have to wonder, like, what would sales data for a PlayStation game look like if they launched like the same day on PC, you know? But the truth is, here's why these numbers, even if these numbers are accurate, they may seem low. The reason why that's good for Sony is that's just free money. These games were sold at pretty much full price, and they're making like how many millions of dollars off of old games? So even though the numbers, like, you know, you see games sometimes that sell like 8, 9, 10 million copies on PlayStation, not all of those sales are at full price. So getting an extra 1.5 million or, you know, 1.5 million sales at full price, I mean, it becomes clear why Sony is doing this, right? It's just free money. Not that I care. It's not like that's money that's going into my bank account, but just to make sense of, oh, like, why is Sony? This is why. I know a lot of people already know that, but you're saying if true, that's appalling. No more PS5 games on PC. I mean, here's the thing, man. You have to understand that people who are buying these games on PC, anybody who's buying these older PlayStation ports on PC, they're doing so because they're not really PlayStation fans. Like, I'm not trying to sound like a gatekeeper or anything like that, or be like, you're not a real PlayStation fan. But they'll probably even tell you that. Like, they don't go out there. They're not buying the PlayStation console. They're not really interested in the PlayStation ecosystem. And it got to a point where Sony's like, here you go. Here's one or two of our games. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll play them now. I'll play them now. And so, to me, it just seems obvious that Sony's trying to squeeze as much money out of these games as they possibly can. And from a business perspective, from a, hey, we want to be profitable perspective, or as profitable as we can be, it's a pretty smart move. So there you go. That's all the talk I have for you when it comes to PlayStation and PC. So what, you guys can let me know what you think about that. But the next topic we're going to move on to and discuss, and I think we're going to have some fun with this one. We're going to have some fun with this topic. Let's talk about Forza Horizon 5, right? Real quick in the chat, give me some of your thoughts on Forza Horizon 5. What's going on with Forza? What's going on with Xbox? I want to talk about Xbox. And before anybody, has a conniption, I said has. Oh man, you can tell I didn't eat breakfast this morning. Before anybody has a conniption, yes, I'm going to be talking about Xbox. Okay? And I'm going to have some opinions. I know that sounds crazy, but it's going to happen. So all right, so here's what I'm going to say about Forza Horizon 5. Forza Horizon 5 is a much needed win for Xbox. I was going to say it's a much needed breath of fresh air until I realized, wait a second, that's not true. You're saying Xbox is still in MBG's blood? I don't know, man. It's really not anymore. Like, here's what I'm going to say about Xbox, MBG, the cringe pony. No, dude, here's what I'm going to say about Xbox. Xbox, to me, why I still care so much, why I still pay so much attention, it's because I want them to kick some ass, man. I want Xbox to do work, and I want them to do well. I want Xbox to keep Sony honest. I want Xbox to keep Sony on their toes. I truly do want that. And I hope people understand that. And that's why when I look at, like, an interesting conversation that popped up with the launch of Horizon is I saw some people in comment sections on Twitter with Twitter replies. They're like, hey, I don't know if GT7 is going to be able to keep up, at least critically speaking. I mean, Forza Horizon 5 is getting 10 out of 10s. It's like sitting up there with the high Metacritic, and you really do have to wonder. How is GT7 going to stack up against, you're right, they are two very different games, but it's going to happen regardless. I mean, I think it would be more fair. It would certainly be more fair to stack up like GT7 against Forza Motorsport 8 whenever that drops. But, we have to understand that GT7 is the racing game Sony has. It's going to do amazing. Like GT7, from a sales standpoint, it's going to sell like crazy. Right, it's going to do fine, but this is what I mean. Something I saw people saying that I found so interesting is like Sony should make a Forza Horizon competitor, right? They should make a Forza Horizon competitor. And I'm like, see, that's it right there. That's what we need. If Sony were to feel the heat, we're like, you know what? We should find a studio to make a Forza Horizon competitor. Like, we should make a version of GT, take the GT name, but make like a Horizon-like game. It would be because of how amazingly well Horizon's review scores are and how well it does. And it's a top quality game in the eyes of a lot of people, you know? So it would make sense. Like, they have to notice that. So you have to imagine that they're going to be like, okay, like maybe we should do something like that. I don't think PlayStation fans would be opposed to that, honestly. Because, yeah, it's difficult to actually draw direct comparisons to GT and Horizon. They are two very different games, for sure. Let's see here. I remember Drive Club was a thing. Death Stranding has racing in it. That's true. But you know, I just want to say, like, a lot of Xbox people comment at me being like, Metacritic scores don't matter, bro. And then I see like quite a few of them coming out being like, yo, back to back, you know, high Metacritic scores. I'm like, come on. Like, which is it? Do Metacritic scores matter or do they not? I don't get it. I've always said they matter a little bit. That shouldn't be the reason why you decide to buy a game or not. Jerome, you're saying with most of Xbox Studios putting out games over 87 overall this year, if Halo at least gets an 85, will you be excited for next year? Yeah, I mean, dude, that's the thing, man. It's like, it's not just Metacritic scores. Like, my thing with Halo in particular is like, I don't know. I'm going to have to just see what the Halo community and what the general gaming community and what the general consensus is about Halo when it drops, because I'm not kidding. Like, I know people got upset. Xbox fans got upset when I said, like, dude, Playground Games is doing the heavy lifting for Xbox. I'm just like, you can't sit here and say to me, oh, but what about Flight Simulator? Like, come on, man. Are you serious? Like, you're going to try to talk to me like, I'm not trying to downplay Flight Simulator, but it's like, what? You know? But I mean, Psychonauts 2, I don't care what anybody says. I'm not counting Psychonauts 2, man. I'm not. Microsoft had like nothing to do with the creation of that game. They bought the studio that made that game, and it's a multi-plat game. I'm not counting Psychonauts 2. I can play Psychonauts 2 on my PlayStation. All right, it's a great game. I mean, hey, it's good for Microsoft Studios, but I'm talking about like Microsoft Studio that was there, and like, dude, Playground Games is it, man. Playground Games is it. You're saying I'm forgetting the Coalition? That's true. The Coalition is pretty good too, but I just don't think the Coalition isn't doing, in my opinion, what Playground Games is doing. Like, they're not doing for Gears what Playground Games is doing with Horizon. This is the 5th Horizon game, and dude, Playground Games, they don't miss, man. Like, they're like top tier, you know what I mean? And I feel like the Coalition, they've been doing really good. The last Gears game was really good, but it's like, and this is just from an outsider's perspective. You can, you know, if there's any hardcore Gears fans listening, you can tell me if I'm wrong right now. I just don't think Gears it's just not held in the same regard as it once was. I don't think people look at like Gears 5 and put that on the same level as like, oh, remember Gears like 1 and 2? I just don't think it is, you know? To whereas I feel like when people play Forza Horizon 5, they're like, dude, this is so much better than Forza Horizon 1 and 2. You see what I'm saying? You're saying Xbox topic, MBG's eyes lit up. No, I mean, I don't know. It's because I'm always into the competition of it, you know? I'm always into the spirit of competition. It always interests me to see, like, you know, see how things are going to go down. Okay, Kapapa, you're saying Sony is a bit too confident now. They are missing marks. We still don't have paddles for DS, and the VRR is only coming to Sony TVs. Yeah, don't get me wrong, man. Like there are things that Sony they need to try to pick up the pace a little bit. Like I agree. Like VRR, even though it's something I wouldn't really use, but it's like, come on, Sony, like get VRR out there. How is that not available yet? You know what I mean? It seems ridiculous to me that like this is a thing that Xbox has had, and it's been helping them with their games, at least to the point where enough people recognize it. They're like, yo, I want VRR. Sony, get it done. Come on. What are you doing out here? What are you doing? Let me see. We have Dominic Q. You're saying, as much as I like Game of the Year awards, I'll still never forgive them for giving Fortnite a Game of the Year over Red Dead Redemption 2. LMAO. Yeah, we don't talk about that. Let's try to forget that. I mean, look, I get it, man. Like for me, it's not just about the prestige behind something. You know what I mean? Like Forza Horizon 5 is getting the praise it's getting because it's a great game, man. Like you don't get a game like Forza Horizon 5 anywhere else. You just don't. Just like you don't get a game like Horizon Forbidden West anywhere else. You see what I'm saying? And like my whole thing with Xbox is, some fans tell me like, dude, Xbox is on fire, bro. Like they made the comeback. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, when it comes to public perception, things have turned around for Xbox, but I don't have that confidence level yet in them. And again, this is coming from the perspective of I want Redfall next year. I want Starfield. Dude, I want Starfield to be as big as the Elder Scrolls in terms of like success. I absolutely do. Because do you know what that's going to do to Sony? That's going to make Sony go, oh, damn. Like, we need to make sure. I'm not, and not this, not, hey, we need to copy Microsoft. No. Or Bethesda. No. Maybe to an extent with like more Western RPGs to an extent, fantasy RPGs. But what it's going to make Sony do is be like, we need to make sure we don't miss. We cannot miss. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it all comes down to, man. Because you better believe, I don't care what anyone says. I don't care what anyone says. You better believe Microsoft bought Bethesda because of the immense pressure that Sony put on them all last generation. Sony smoked Xbox last gen, and Microsoft knows it. Phil Spencer knows it. Every Xbox fan knows it, and that's okay because you know what? Now look at what happens. Suddenly, Xbox is back in the corner, and there's only one way they get out of that corner, and that's by swinging any way they can, fighting, right? So there you go. I feel like that's pretty much what this comes down to, and so that's why I have no problem giving Xbox credit where they, in my opinion, where they really deserve it, because Forza Horizon 5 is a AAA game. It's a big game, and Sony simply does not have a game that can compete with it. Because if I try to say, well, GT7, then what does everybody say? Well, they're two different games, and they are. So it's almost like, well, maybe Sony should, what happened to MotorStorm, right? Didn't Sony have MotorStorm? Maybe they should bring that back, man. But that doesn't mean, but I can also I can flip the script, right? I can flip the script. I have to ask myself, well, we just got Returnal this year. Returnal, somebody asked me in the chat, what's your game of the year? Dude, Returnal's my game of the year. What does Xbox have that can compete with Returnal? They don't have a game like Returnal. They don't have a game that can compete with Returnal. So that's where I'm like, damn, good job, Sony. You saw something great with Housemarque. You saw that this is a great game. It's not going to be for everybody. It's not going to be as accessible as something like Forza Horizon or Ratchet and Clank, but it's a great game. Lock it down. I mean, come on. Microsoft, I want to see that Returnal competitor. Yo, Microsoft creates a Returnal competitor, something similar to that. I'm going to play it, man. I feel like, it goes both ways. I mean, you could say, well, yo, where is Sony's Microsoft Flight Sim competitor? You got me there. I don't know. Come on, Sony, what are you doing? Where's that Flight Sim competitor? I feel like Psychonauts 2, I saw a lot of people comparing Psychonauts 2 to Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. I'm like, that's totally fair, dude. That's actually a great comparison. But the problem is, I feel like, again, like, I just can't view Psychonauts 2 as like, okay, this is an in-house, first-party developed Microsoft studio game. It was like wasn't that game like crowdfunded at one point? Like that's how it started. Psychonauts, no, it's available on PlayStation. So it's like maybe their next game that's developed in-house, like a real, like refined AAA. Dude, I see people in the chat, they're like, what are you smoking, MBG? Psychonauts 2 is not even close to Ratchet and Clank. I mean, I'm just saying, in terms of just overall, like, general appeal and aesthetic to an extent, I could see how it's like, okay, these two games are like in competition. Dude, whether or not, if you want to tell me that Ratchet and Clank smokes Psychonauts 2, that's fine. But it smokes it in this, in a similar category. You know what I'm saying? That's how I see it. Ratchet and Jank? Yeah, I don't know about that, dude. Ratchet and Clank was pretty refined when it came out. Got a couple super chats. Katie, you're saying, MBG, man, you got to realize going back and forth with Xbox fanboys is pointless. Matt Booty himself said they can't compete with Sony. Oh, dude, that was the best. That was the best. When Matt Booty came out and was like, yo, no, you can't argue PlayStation's quality. And we haven't been 1-to-1. Matt Booty said it. Matt Booty said it. And Xbox fans are still trying to fight. They're still trying to fight me. Like, dude, I'm not fighting you. Like, he said it, man. He said what I said. Matt Booty said what I said. Okay? He said, look, I'm not getting into whether we're making our own Uncharted or our own Horizon. What he said is that you got to give PlayStation credit, and we have not been 1-to-1 when it comes to those big, colossal, like, tentpole games. And I'm glad, because you know what? You need somebody who can see that clearly and identify, address, and hopefully solve that problem. That's what you need. And that's what makes the future look so bright for Xbox. Where's Everwild? I don't know, dude. Jerome Montgomery saying Playground games, Sony level. Sony need to buy them. Yeah, I don't think Microsoft's going to sell Playground games to Sony. I don't think they're going to do that. Maybe they'll trade studios. Sony. I don't think Sony. I don't know. Whether or not Sony needs a Forza Horizon competitor remains to be seen. We have to see. Still haven't beaten Frike. Man, yeah, keep at it, man. It's worth it. So we have Jerome again. You're saying if Starfield wins Game of the Year over God of War and Horizon, no Phil going to be, okay, I see what you're saying. Phil Spencer's going to be throwing shots at Sony. I mean, yeah, there's no way, dude. I don't know, man. Starfield would have to be that's a tall order, man. Like Starfield going up, Game of the Year talk doesn't really matter at the end of the day, but if you want to talk about it, Starfield going up against God of War, Ragnarok, and Horizon Forbidden West, it's got its work cut out for it, man. It's really got its work cut out for it. I could see Starfield being really good, and I could see Starfield definitely being nominated for Game of the Year. That would be a hell of a battle, though. That would be a fun Game Awards to watch for sure. Let me see. MBG, have you seen the console warning post from Forza's official Twitter page? They commented on an Xbox Fanatics post. No, PC Master Race, I haven't. Maybe you can enlighten me a little bit. I could always use a little bit of entertainment. Returnal's 85 on Meta. KD, again, you're saying if you slapped a Samus skin over the girl in Returnal, it would easily be everyone's undisputed game of the year. Oh, for sure, dude. Come on. I mean, this is where it's like, to be honest, I feel like sometimes I just get so tired of talking about games in this way, where it's like Metacritic scores, reviews, how do people view this, or what's the general sentiment? I feel like it doesn't matter, like it really doesn't matter. Like, dude, if you played Flight Simulator this year, Microsoft Flight Simulator, you're like, this is my game of the year. I'm like, bro, that's awesome. I'm happy for you. Like that's how it should be. If somebody plays Call of Duty and you're like, yo, Call of Duty is my game of the year, I'm like, you know what? That's good for you, man. Good for you. I just feel like people look at Returnal and it's like, it's a great game, man. Returnal is a great game. You don't have to like it. And I don't care if you like it or not, but I like it. And that's what matters to me. I liked it so much, it's my game of the year. But I'm also going to say, I look at a game like Psychonauts 2, and I'm just like, I'm not feeling it. I just don't see what the allure of this game is personally. But I see it with a game like Returnal. But then again, you do have to be open-minded, right? Elden Ring is strong for Game of the Year, for sure. For sure. But yeah, dude, KD, I know what you're saying, man. It's just, there's just certain things, it's like, there's a reason why, like, certain franchises, certain IP, certain studios, they all get like a certain pass. You know what I mean? They get a pass on certain things because they're allowed to. I mean, I saw some people basically be like, yo, Forza Horizon 5 is like the same game as Forza Horizon 4. Why is it getting so much praise? And I'm like, well, dude, fundamentally, it's the same game. But, dude, we get a yearly Call of Duty. We get a yearly FIFA, yearly Madden, and a lot of games stay the same. A lot of Nintendo's games are the same game, but it's just you can't argue the quality. That's why I'm saying I think quality is really the thing that differentiates how accepting people are. I really do. I think that quality is what differentiates just how accepting or unacceptable things are to people. Because I feel like if you look at a game, I know this is random, but like Cyberpunk, I see some people mentioning it. Like, look at Cyberpunk. What if that was top quality when it came out and it wasn't broken? Just when you think about just how differently that game would be viewed, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's what it comes down to, man. It's just quality is truly the difference maker, I think, in everything. You could have the best gameplay in a game, but if the gameplay isn't itself like quality, as in like it's like you have some of the best mechanics, you have some of the best ideas, but the game's just like unplayable or it's broken or whatever, then you know what I mean? MBG Forza's Twitter page agreed with a post where an Xbox fanboy was saying Forza Horizon 5 got ponies questioning their religion, and showed a video where a PlayStation fan was praising Forza Horizon 5's visuals. Was that me? Was it a video of me praising it? Because I did praise Forza Horizon 5's visuals, which they look really good. Is this still up? I might go check this out. This sounds pretty funny. Forza's Twitter page. When you say that they agreed with a post, was that like did they like the post? Did they comment on it? Did they tweet it? I don't know. I mean, I like the competitive aspect of it all, but it gets tiresome sometimes, We live in a world where people can't love games just because of what you play on. They commented on it. I gotta go check this. I'm gonna go check this out. This sounds pretty funny. So it's the official Forza. Is it Forza or Forza? I see. Like I see. All right, I'm gonna check. I'm not seeing anything. Wait, is it the official Forza? Is there a Forza Horizon account? Okay, there is a Forza Horizon account. Let me check. I'm not seeing anything so far. I mean, I see them commenting on like Phil Spencer. Oh, I see it. I see it. Dude, that is funny as hell, man. I see it now. It's Mansa Musa, I guess. He says Forza Horizon 5 got ponies questioning their religion. And I think it's, what is that, Marlin? I think that's Marlin Gaming Nation, I think. I might be wrong, but I think that's who it is. And it's like a clip of him looking at it. And I'm not going to play it, but I'm assuming he's just like talking about how great it looks. And the official Forza account said, bless you. Dude, that's pretty funny, man. That's pretty funny. I don't care, dude. I love how everybody's like, oh, Xbox, they don't care about the console war. Get the hell out of here. Xbox is all about that war. They're low key about it. You know, like I love how the official Xbox Twitter account was like, you know, the real problem in gaming is gatekeeping. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You said that? Like, you actually typed this out. Somebody said you could send this. I'm like, this is coming from the same brand who bought an entire publisher to gatekeep the PlayStation community. And then people are defending it. They're like, well, you can play it on PC, you can play it on cloud. And I'm like, you're missing the point, man. The point is, don't talk about gatekeeping when you're actively doing it. You see what I'm saying? That's all I'm trying to say. Like, just call a spade a spade. That's it, man. You know, like, I can call Forza Horizon 5 a great looking game. I need Xbox to stop acting like they're not gatekeeping at all. That's all it is. But, dude, that's so funny, man. This is great. Dude, I swear. Dude, I used to, like, get annoyed with Twitter. I really did. Until the day I realized, wait a second, this could just be entertainment. Like, if I just view this as entertainment, dude, your whole perspective on it changes. We got a couple super chats. Jerome, you're saying Sony equals train sim. Let's compete. LOL. Yeah, dude. If Microsoft's gonna have the flight simulator, Sony, I'm gonna have to tell you, you're gonna have to come out with something. A train sim. Let's do it. Rashdam V2, you're saying there are rumors Polyphony is working on a Forza Horizon type game. That would be awesome. I gotta say, that would be one of the coolest things ever, because if Sony does actually come out with a Horizon-like GT game, then you know that is a direct result of Playground Games being a top-tier studio that Microsoft owns, that Sony cannot own. Therefore, well, we got to compete with this. You know, we got to do something. Henry Haskin, you're saying, unfortunately, Metroid is probably going to win Game of the Year. Yeah, I could see that easily happening. Disco Cobra 2013, you're saying Cyberpunk, even without the glitches and everything, is still a subpar story. The gameplay might be okay at times, but I've seen breakdowns that say that. So I'm actually in the process of watching Tim Rogers, or he does Action Button. I don't know if you guys... I first came across Tim Rogers with his Death Stranding review, and I'm like, this dude is incredible. I'm like, this dude is amazing. He's like the best video game reviewer I've ever come across. He just seems like such a cool dude. But he's reviewing, he just put out his review of Cyberpunk after like almost a year. And oh man, it was worth the wait. It was so worth the wait. But I love how even he can't ignore, you know, for somebody who really wanted to love the game, he's like, yeah, there's a lot of problems with this game. Like, yeah, there is. But great review. I highly recommend it, dude. Action Button Reviews, I think. Dude, that Tim Rogers somehow he managed to get me to watch a 6-hour review. And I'm not kidding. Tim Rogers is so good at reviewing games. He managed to get me to watch a 6-hour review of Toki Teki Memoria. Is that his Memorial? A game that I didn't even know. I'm like, what is this game? And I'm like, this is dumb. I don't like this game. And then I'm sitting there like, I'm like 5 hours deep into a review and I'm like, yo, I know everything about this game now. Only Tim Rogers could. Yeah, 6-hour review. I'm not exaggerating, dude. Not exaggerating. I couldn't believe it. KD, you're saying it's funny. It was Jim Ryan's reaction to the old GT games that sparked the whole backward compatibility and game preservation controversy with Sony, but Forza delist their games whenever a sequel is released, LOL. And that's what I mean, dude. That's what I mean. Is like people don't keep the same energy, man. They just don't. And I get it. Like, sometimes I don't keep the same energy either. It's impossible for a single human being to consistently keep the same energy because we're human beings and we are flawed, and our flaws will reveal themselves at one point or another. But in this case, it's like, yeah, I thought people completely overreacted to Jim Ryan's comments back when he talked about GT. Like, he's not wrong. I don't care what anybody says. Like, people who are like, why would I want to play GT Sport when I can play GT3? Like, you're gonna go play GT3, really? Like, you're gonna go play it. I mean, dude, don't get me wrong. If that's, I get it. It is about game preservation. It's about respecting the history. I understand. I'm not downplaying that. I'm just saying that when you like cut through all the BS, I mean, what do we as PlayStation enthusiasts constantly talk about? Damn, that's a pretty looking game. Damn, that game looks good. You know? Look, I remember earlier this year, we got into a ton of conversations about backwards compatibility and everything else. Okay, we got, and I made it clear that, dude, I'm here to play new games. And if you want to give me a remake, go for it. But I'm looking forward to the new games. That's what I'm looking forward to. JDTV, you're saying, member for 6 months, by the way. Thank you, man. You're saying Friday is early access time for Battlefield 2042. Are you excited? Have you heard of yesterday's leak that someone managed to start Battlefield 2042 after preloading it? No, I didn't hear about that. I just... You're saying I still play GTA 3-4 to this day on my fat PS4. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not trying to say, oh, there's something wrong with you if you're playing old games. Absolutely not. I just think that people need to take it easy when it's like, look, you have to understand that if you're somebody who's like, I'm going to go play this really old version of a game that looks like really, really, really outdated on my old hardware or whatever, or even on your new hardware, you just have to understand, like, you're kind of an outlier, and that's okay. That's okay. Like, there should be support for those outliers and for those individuals, but you can't really fault somebody for being like, but why would you do that? You know what I mean? That's the only question. So, like, for example, when you say you still play GTA 3 and whatnot, when the trilogy comes out, I mean, you're probably going to play that version, right? You know, you're probably going to play that version on your PS4 or PS5. But I don't know. But game preservation is definitely an important conversation. I do think that Sony, with Jim Ryan's leadership, I'm going to answer your question, JDTV, but with Jim Ryan's leadership, I think it's pretty clear that to him, it's like, look, we're pushing forward. We kind of just want to forget about the PS3 and anything before that, which I think kind of sucks, because they have such a rich library and a rich history, but that's just the way it is, it seems. Although it will be interesting to see if Sony does have some type of solution for backwards compatibility in the long run. And to answer your question, honestly, dude, I'm not excited for Battlefield 2042. I played a little bit of the beta and I just wasn't feeling it, man. I don't know. I feel like my gaming taste has changed. I used to be so into shooters, and I used to love games like Battlefield. I played a ton of Call of Duty and whatnot. And I don't know, man. I just feel like I kind of grew out of it a little bit, where it's like, I don't know. My top gaming experiences of the year so far, believe it or not, are Returnal. Like, the two top gaming experiences for me are Returnal and, believe it or not, Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut. Like, dude, I don't know. Ghost of Tsushima Director's Cut, I just went into that game with a completely different mindset. And I'm just shocked at how thoroughly I enjoyed it, man. I'm shocked at how truly thoroughly I enjoyed that game. But let me see here. I want to go back to this Forza thing because my God, dude, this guy's comment and the official Forza account actually replying to it. Holy hell, man. There's an absolute war, an absolute console war going on in the comments right now. So I'm looking at, we have hashtag true or true giffers doing a comparison of the, I think, ray tracing on in Ratchet and Clank versus Horizon. GT7 will be better like it always does. I'm reading some of the comments, by the way. And here you are. Microsoft released finally a very good game. Oh my God, dude. Wow, man. Dude, this is crazy. See, this is why like Twitter is just so funny because I'm looking at some of these responses. I mean, dude, people try so hard to find the smallest things. And it makes, dude, it really makes sense. It really makes sense that it's going down this way. You know, I know that there are a lot of PlayStation fans that come to my channel and they, you know, I'll be honest about something right now. I noticed that it's, you know, sometimes we do things when it's convenient. And I'm not going to lie. Like, I really was like, yeah, PlayStation is better than Xbox. And Xbox really isn't. Like, Xbox kind of sucks. I was really like that when it was easy to do it. And I know it's not easy to do that now, man. Like, I notice, like, if I try to come out here and be like, yo, let me tell you why Xbox sucks, dude, there's like a whole wall of people are like, I'm sorry, what? And I'm like, all right, okay, cool. You know, it's not 2020 anymore. That we got a new Halo demo now. We got a new Craig. All right. And I noticed this and I'm like, but the thing is, like, even I went back and I'm like, looking back, I'm like, wait, hold on. I was clowning Craig too. I made a video last year after we saw the first reveal of Halo, and the video got 160,000 views, which shocked me because the video was solely Xbox focused. And I said in the video, I'm like, dude, Halo Infinite makes the Xbox Series X look like a joke. And I realized now, like, that was so true at the time because the game did look like a joke. It made the Xbox Series X look a joke because Xbox was like most powerful console. But now you flash forward to today and the conversation has changed. And it's because Xbox did the right thing, man. They delayed Halo Infinite for a year to try to get it up to a better quality state, which I think they did. I mean, it still, to me, doesn't really look all that impressive, but it's definitely better than it was. And people are happy for that. They're like, oh, thank you for doing that. Like, we really wanted you to do that. And now they're coming out at a time where it's like, now we got Forza Horizon 5. We're coming off of Microsoft Flight Sim, Age of Empires 4, Psychonauts 2. And we're going to finish strong with Halo Infinite. And I'm like, you know, between that and the positive conversation around the value that Game Pass offers, I mean, you can't really argue that, hey, man, whether you agree with it or not, Xbox has effectively turned the situation around. Xbox has effectively found a way to turn the very negative conversation into, now we have a lot more positivity. I have not seen this type of positivity towards Xbox in a long time. What I have discovered, however, is that I'm just not on that same wavelength. And I kind of get, like, now people are like way more defensive where they're like, look, man, we appreciated your input and your criticism when we all agreed that Xbox was down. But now there's a lot of people that are like, yo, Xbox is doing it. And I'm like, really? Like, are they doing it yet, though? And then people are like, yeah, they are. I'm just like, I don't know, man. I feel like PlayStation's doing it. I mean, they could both be doing it, but I don't know. I just thought that when Xbox was going to do it, right? when Xbox was going to turn it around, I envisioned it happening differently. And I've just kind of accepted that, well, if they're going to meet my vision, like whatever that is for me, it's probably going to be a little bit later on. Like people are getting hyped about Forza Horizon 5, and I think that's fine. Like, I think that's deserved, but I said it before and I'll say it again. Like, I just can't get excited. I just can't get excited about Forza and Halo again. I can't. And I never really was, the games that I was looking forward to coming from Xbox back last generation, it wasn't the Halo, the Gears, the Forzas, and it still isn't. So I'm hoping that, I don't know. I guess we'll have to see what happens next year. I guess we'll have to see what happens with Bethesda. But the conversation has certainly turned around, and I got to at least give Xbox credit where it's like, yeah, they managed to effectively turn the conversation around. And I think that with that video I made about Forza, that's pretty much what I was trying to get at. I just don't think I did a very good job, because it's hard not to like look back in the past year and be like, who did it better, Xbox or PlayStation? And I'm going to flat out say, dude, PlayStation. Like, I think people are out of their damn minds if they think Xbox did it better. But hey, dude, everybody's allowed to have their own opinions, Jerome, you're saying, will you be upset if the PS6 won't have PS5 back compat? Absolutely. There should be no reason in the world why the PS5 shouldn't be backward, or the PS6 shouldn't be backwards compatible with the PS5. I look at it as Sony messed up with the PS3, and that's why they want to like forget the PS3 and anything before that. But considering the architecture of the PS5, yeah, for sure. Primal Plasma, average playtime on Forza Horizon 5, 7 minutes. Is that true? I don't know if that's true or not. But yeah, I spent a lot longer on this topic than I wanted to, but I got sidetracked a little bit by the conversations around this stuff just get really silly anymore. They really do. I guess just to kind of sum it all up, to give my final thoughts on Forza Horizon 5. I'm happy for Xbox, and I'm happy for Xbox fans. I said it earlier, and that is, I want Xbox to do well. I want Xbox to really turn the heat up, bring the heat to PlayStation, because I think that's only going to benefit PlayStation fans. And if we do end up getting a Forza Horizon competitor, how did they mess up MBG when the PS4 wasn't backwards compatible? No, I just meant like, with the cell architecture with the PS3. Like, I think that Sony just didn't really have enough foresight to realize, like, this might be a nightmare to ever try to do backwards compatibility with the PS3. MBG is on copium overdose. Am I though? Really? Like, dude, people are so strange, man. Like, they really are. Yo, MBG, what do you think of Xbox getting Crystal Dynamics and potentially IO Interactive, maybe even Crytek? Do you think it will put Xbox game studios at an even higher bar? Yeah, I think if Xbox were to get one of those studios, yeah, that would, any one of those studios you just mentioned would be a pretty big get for sure. Although, I don't know, Crystal Dynamics, I feel like they've kind of, I don't know. You're saying he's a troll? Yeah, I know. That's why I'm saying people are so strange. Like, people are just odd, man. All right, so I'm trying my best to keep this podcast on the rails, man, and I'm doing a terrible job. Okay. So we're going to move on to talk about, let me see. Okay, this I might skip the Devolver Digital topic only because I don't think there's much I can say about that. I kind of didn't realize when I put that topic in here that, like, there's really not much to be said about that I didn't already say in a video. However, here's something that I think would be pretty interesting, and it involves a conversation that, we frequently talk about Xbox and PlayStation, and there's like, Xbox fanboys and PlayStation fanboys, and it's always the console war. And it turns out it goes beyond that. Like, it transcends just the consoles. I think we all know this, but what we're about to talk about next, I think will prove that. Leo Jimmy, you're saying Xbox has been getting away with murder for 10 years. A student that makes a B 3 months out of 12. Xbox can do the bare minimum and people applaud them. I agree, dude. I agree. I try not to get frustrated about it because I think people take it the wrong way. Like, and I'll just say this last thing. People take it the wrong. It's not that they're taking it the wrong way. It's they're taking it the way that they want to take it. What I mean by that is, if I say, hey, I respect people's opinions on saying, oh, well, I think Xbox is doing well, and I think they turn it around. And I say, that's fine. I respect that. You're entitled to your opinion. Here's my perspective. It's kind of similar to what you just said, Leo Jimmy. It's like Xbox really hasn't done that much in terms of like really delivering something special. You know, something that, in my opinion, is worthy of like really like, okay, now we're hitting that next level. And I feel like Forza Horizon 5 is the closest thing to that. And that's why people are really going on about it. But I feel like that's supposed to be Halo Infinite. You know what I mean? Like, it's not supposed to be Forza again. It's supposed to be Halo this time. It was supposed to be Halo last year. And, you know, people just say, well, dude, have you not seen like the studios that Microsoft has? Do you not see the future of Xbox? I'm like, no, I see the future, but we don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's no real definitive proof. And I feel like that's why I still stick as closely to PlayStation as I do, because even though I know that they've been making some not so pro-consumer choices in some areas and some people really get on them, you know, MBG Game Pass value is the biggest get this gen, playing MLB The Show, Forza, Halo, Back 4 Blood, Outriders. That is big in the I guess you're saying that's just big overall this year. And like that's all I'm trying to say is that it feels like Microsoft has made it impossible for me to have a conversation about PlayStation and Xbox that even makes sense anymore, because Xbox just does things differently, man. Like, I can't argue with that. There is no argument to be made there. Like what you just said, like, dude, it's the best deal in gaming. I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, if you're somebody who's just looking to play a bunch of games and some of them seem like they're pretty high quality, you're right. I can't argue with that. But that's not, I've never really tried to make the value argument. My argument for PlayStation has always simply been, I just think they make the best games. And I think that they're worth the price that they're asking for. That's always been my argument. And my argument for, hey, like, the reason why I just don't really pay too much attention to Xbox anymore, and why I don't really expect anything good from them, is because they just don't do that really that often, if ever. And I feel like what you said, Leo Jimmy, is kind of true, because it's like, yeah, Xbox has done a few good things, and it's like suddenly, oh, yo, they're back. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, that's fine. And I feel like there's a group of very, Xbox enthusiasts that are really, I get it. I do it too. It's like they do one thing and it's like, yeah, like we did it. And it's like, but there's other things. It's like, no, we did it and we won right now. It's like, oh, okay. And people get like that, and that's fine. That's what being an enthusiast is. You get excited over the little wins, So I don't know. My whole thing is this. To me, this is all just an exercise. Like, I get a lot of flack thrown my way where it's like, yo, Xbox is up right now. PlayStation down bad. PlayStation fans down. And I'm like, look, I get it, dude. We just got off of a pretty weak state of play. Sony hasn't had any major game announcements recently. The last one we got was Wolverine, and that was big. You know what I mean? And it's like, we don't, Xbox is finishing the year very strong. And my whole thing is like, look, when it inevitably happens, you got to cheer for the touchdowns. There you go. Perfectly put. My whole thing at this point is when PlayStation delivers the way that we know they're going to, as they have consistently done. And when Xbox hits that next roadblock, right? When the pendulum swings again, my energy and focus is going to be on recognizing that and realizing that, you know what? It's true, man. The pendulum truly does swing back and forth. It's like it's like rooting for a team that's on their way to the Super Bowl and they make it to the Super Bowl and they win the Super Bowl and their rival team just got crushed and had a horrible season. And then the next season, that team just runs over your team. Maybe not runs over, but they end up, hey, dude, they're the one who are finishing out strong in the playoffs this year, not your team. And you realize, oh yeah, I guess that's how the curl of the burl, right? Like that's how it goes. So my focus is that when things are going good, I don't want to make the same mistake where I feel like when things were going good last year and, some things were kind of down for Xbox, I feel like I just spent too much time being like, yo, look at how sad Xbox is. Look at how sad their studios are. Look at how sad Halo is. And I'm like, yeah, I deserve some of the blowback I get because I got to be real here, guys. I was the dude that when Craig was being memed on and Domino's dunked on Xbox, I ordered a pizza from Domino's and I shared that out and I put Craig's face into that pizza and I'm like, it's just like that's going to come back to bite me because what if Halo does turn out to be good? No, it was pretty fun though. But hopefully you guys get what I'm saying. It's just the pendulum swings back and forth, and I realized that if I truly want to escape the whole fanboy console war stuff, it's going to require that when things are going good and when things are looking up, and it's not downtime anymore, don't get on the high horse and start taking shots because there's just no reason to actually do that. I feel like Xbox fans. A lot of Xbox fans feel very vindicated right now, and they're basically, they're looking to put the smack down, I guess you could say, on a lot of PlayStation fans who've been flexing on them for years about, hey, man, Xbox, they can't keep up. Leo Jimmy, appreciate the super chat, buddy. We have Christopher. You're saying, MBG, what are some gaming podcasts that you listen to? The only gaming podcast I've been listening to lately is Sacred Symbols. That's about it. I don't really listen to many other podcasts. I feel like they have too much influence on me if I do. But, from time to time, I listen to some Sacred Symbols. Jerome Montgomery, you're saying, does Xbox need a story-driven game like God of War to compete, or can they come up with another genre? Well, I think if there's one thing that Xbox has proven is that they can absolutely take a different path. They don't have to, just like Sony doesn't have to make a Forza Horizon competitor to compete, Microsoft doesn't necessarily need to make a God of War competitor. They just need to have a game that is as, I guess you could say, big as that, as big as God of War, that can have the same type of appeal. It doesn't have to be in the same genre, and it doesn't have to be a story-driven game. I think it would be great if Xbox could get something like that, but they don't necessarily need it. Christopher, you're saying Game Pass model is not sustainable even for Xbox. It will eventually start to negatively affect the quality of games as they rush or shrink budgets. We'll have to see. I think that's really dependent upon just how supportive Microsoft as a whole is to Game Pass, because the truth is, Microsoft, if they want, they can keep Game Pass alive and in the red for as long as they want or need to. They have pretty much infinite money. That's not what they want, but if they truly believe that, hey, if it takes longer than expected, but it'll be worth it in the end, they'll do it. They'll do it. But I do agree to a certain extent. The overall long-term sustainability, we have to wait and see. Nathan Drake 123, you're saying, hey, MBG, is it possible we'll see a PS5 Pro in 2023, 2024, since we've been hearing the topic from time to time? What are your thoughts on it? Absolutely. Yeah, we're going to see a PS5 Pro this gen, and we're going to see multiple Xbox consoles. That's absolutely going to happen. And I think your time frame, 2023 or 2024, sounds about right. It's going to be a good time. We'll see what those consoles end up being, but that's absolutely what we're going to get. Thank you, Zay Very Rare. I don't know if I'm saying your name correctly, man. I feel like I always have trouble. But thank you so much for becoming a member, buddy. I really appreciate it. Welcome aboard. Appreciate the support. Primal Plasma, member for 8 months. You're saying the moment Xbox releases a killer console like the Xbox 360, then I will become an Xbox fan again. And we have Henry Haskin. You're saying Hellblade is a God of War competitor. That remains to be seen. I do think that Hellblade, out of all of the games that Sony or Microsoft has to compete with Sony's, I think that Hellblade absolutely is the closest one, but we have to see if it can be on that same God of War level yet, because Hellblade 1 doesn't match God of War 2018. Could Hellblade 2 match Ragnarok? I don't know. We have to see about that. By the way, guys, do me a favor. Hit the like button for me. We're almost at 400 likes. Let's see if we can get to 450 likes before the podcast comes to an end. Now, the next topic we're talking about, I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about Elden Ring, but in a different way, because I did do a live reaction to the Elden Ring gameplay, which I appreciate the support on. But there was a conversation surrounding Elden Ring that I wasn't expecting to pop up regarding Demon's Souls and Demon's Souls remake and the graphical quality. And it seems like not many people are having this conversation, understandably so. I do think it is kind of a vocal minority, but I did see quite a bit of it on Twitter and on my stream. And I want to just talk about it because I do think it makes for an interesting conversation. Leo, Jimmy are saying PS releases banger after banger, games of a generation on the same level as Rockstar Games, Ghost, God of War, Last of Us 2, Bloodborne. What has Xbox done to push gaming forward besides tout a subscription service? Well, that's the thing, man, is like, I feel like I'm kind of put in a position where it's like, if I don't, basically do the checkbox of like, okay, I'm giving Xbox their credit now, because again, like the general consensus is that Xbox is doing good and Xbox good. If I am like critical of them now, it's like, yo, what are you doing, MBG? Like, you can't do that. But I don't know, man. I kind of feel the same way you do, where it's like, if you're somebody who's like just looking for the best value and deal in gaming, then you get that with Xbox. And like you said, that's what they did. They pushed this subscription service and people flocked to it. And that's great. And if that's your prerogative, then you must be feeling pretty good about it. But that's just not me. Like what you just mentioned about like PlayStation delivering literally game of the generation quality titles. Xbox does not do that. Now, their chances of being able to do that increase dramatically with the purchase of some studios and Bethesda, obviously, but that's just not something Xbox does, that PlayStation does. And that's why I don't come out here. People won't mention the fact that I don't come out here and I don't literally celebrate every single PlayStation exclusive as, second party, third party, even some of the first party stuff. I don't treat them all like they're all the best game ever made. Because they're not but Sony has some of those games that you just can't really argue with. Like, these are must play. I mean, literal must play games. Like you're truly missing something special if you don't play some of these games. And that's why I kind of have to agree with you a little bit there, man, where it's like, I'm just simply trying to say, I don't understand the hype. That's all. Like, I remember I had this same feeling to an extent when I was still on Xbox. And dude, PlayStation fans kept saying like, MBG, you are insane, bro. You need to play these games. Like, you have no clue what you're missing. And I'm like, dude, I don't get the hype, man. Like, I just don't get the hype. And I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll go. I'll try it out. Let's see. And, playing a game like God of War 2018, I'm like, and like The Last of Us, I'm like, okay, now I get what, like, I'm okay. Like, I didn't get it, and now I get it. And I kind of feel the same way towards Xbox right now, where it's like, I just don't get the hype, man. Like, I just don't get it. Like, I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade. And I think that that's where the misconception comes in, is people think that's like, oh, here we go, MBG going to shit on Xbox again. Like, no, like, I'm serious. Like, I'm serious. I don't get it. Like, even as somebody who likes Forza, why is this big of a deal being made out of it? You know what I mean? Like I don't. I played literally the entirety of Forza Horizon 4, and it was a great experience. And when I see Forza Horizon 5, the reason why I'm not rushing out there to play it again is because I feel like I already did that. Because it feels like the only thing that truly changed is the setting. That's all. And that's not me trying to hate on the game or taking away the fact that, I mean, hell, it looks like one of the highest quality games out there, right? Can't argue that. But that's the whole thing. And like I remember people tried to make this argument with Spider-Man Miles Morales, like, oh, it's just the same thing. Like, it's literally not. It's literally not the same thing. It's a new character, new characters, new story. Yeah, same setting, slightly different setting because it's winter now, but a completely new experience in terms of story, characters, story plots, where the story is going to lead, some new abilities, stuff like that. And I'm like, and not only that, but like, I don't know, man. People, I'm just saying, man. Like, I saw these same mother effers. I saw the same mother effers come out here and trash the shit out of Miles Morales because, oh, it's just a DLC, just an over-glorified expansion. Dude, I'm sorry. The exact same thing can be said about Forza Horizon 5. But you know what? Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. It's okay because Game Pass. See? You see, that right there is the catch-22. And that's why I just don't feel the need to go on anymore because Xbox won. The Xbox truly has won the what's the word I'm looking for? They won the battle of mind share, the consumer battle, the consumer aspect. They are absolutely bulletproof now. And I realize that. And that's why I'm like, I'm done taking shots because they're bulletproof. I will never win that battle. I will never, because if I ever try to be like, well, what about this? Game Pass, bro. Best value. Best deal. Okay. Yeah. I can't, what do I say? I can't say anything about that. It doesn't matter anymore. That's the point. And so, that's why just going forward, I don't know, man. I try to just relegate any talk. People wonder why I talk so much about Xbox during the podcast. It's because if you look at the overwhelming majority of my normal weekly content, I don't talk about Xbox pretty much at all, or very rarely at this point. And that's why. It's because I know that those of you who are here listening, most of you, you're willing to hear what I have to say and go a little bit deeper than just, but isn't Sony anti-consumer and Microsoft isn't? Yeah, I mean, for most just normal, regular people who aren't trying to look past that, sure. That's like how the script has been flipped against Sony now. And that's because of, hey, Sony wants to increase the price of their next-gen games, and Microsoft wants to continue to create the best deal in gaming. And I don't know, man. Like, and it's like what some people are mentioning. Like, apparently, Forza Horizon 5, the only way you get that game out right now, or until it officially launches, is through early access, which is, if I'm not mistaken, is that not full price? So it's just, look, I just don't feel the need anymore to try to go at it with people who it's like, hey, Xbox is great now. I disagree. I'm not seeing it. I still haven't seen it. But hey, if that's your cup of tea, man, and that's what you like, I feel like back when I talked about Xbox, like around the State of Decay 2 days, Crackdown 3 days, even I remember like when Gears 5 came out, a similar thing happened where suddenly it's like, yeah, Xbox released a great game. And I'm like, it's fucking Gears. Like, it's Gears. Like, are you people kidding me? And I remember people got pissed at me Because I'm like, dude, Sony's out here launching Death Stranding, a new IP with weird ass gameplay that you never would have expected, taking a risk during the holiday season with Death Stranding. And people want to get on me because they're like, don't you talk bad about Gears. I'm like, I'm not talking bad about Gears. I'm just saying, are you kidding me? Another Gears. And basically the point I was trying to get at is that at that time, right? Like this is where you see Sony. This is why Sony does it better, because they allow for things like that. And they took a risk with something like that. And I'm just simply trying to say that for all the people who constantly come at me and they're like, but hey, man, Xbox is on top again. I'm like, that's fine. You can see it how you want, but we're still getting another Forza and another Halo. And if you want to talk to me about next year, if you want to talk to me about, well, what about this game? What about this game? What about that game? They're not here yet. They haven't dropped yet. Oh, Psychonauts 2? Okay, cool. That game, that's not an original Microsoft IP. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see what I'm saying? I know you guys see what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying it. So I don't bother trying to make videos about it, because people are just going to be like, yeah, well, back-to-back Metacritic scores. I'm like, okay. I feel like it's an impossible argument. Therefore, I just don't feel the need to try to have it anymore or make it, because people just keep going on and on and on. And I'm just over here literally like, did I miss something? Did I miss the memo? And then when I read the memo, it's like, yo, the future of Xbox is looking killer, bro. And I'm like, the future? Okay, then why is everybody so hyped right now? Because the best deal in gaming, bro. And I'm like, all right. Like I said, dude, Microsoft found a way. I am frequently shocked at how well Microsoft has turned the script around, dude. I gotta applaud them for that. I may not be like a fan of what they're doing, but dude, Phil Spencer found a way. He's like, you know who I'm gonna win over? The average consumer. And by doing that, he basically forced Sony into this position where now Sony is the premium experience, right? In other words, the anti-consumer experience. Stalker 2 in April. Yeah, that's true. I keep forgetting about that game. So I don't know. I know that people are going to perceive as, oh, here we go. MBG's just still hating on Xbox. I get it. Like, I get that people look at this like, look, this PlayStation fanboy can't accept it. No, like, I can accept it. I'm literally saying they turned it around, dude. They found a way, and I'm shocked that they did. I'm just confused as to why I feel like it just doesn't make sense to me. It's, like, I'm still not seeing it. It feels like I'm being finessed, man. It feels like I'm being told, like, I don't know. You're saying MBG coming at Xbox hard today, very upset with their success. I'm not upset with their success, man. Like, understand that. Like, I already told you, I think it's good if they can succeed and put more pressure on Sony. I guess what I'm just trying to say is I didn't expect this to be the way that they put the pressure on Sony. I thought the way that they were going to put the pressure on Sony is they release like a 95 Metacritic single player story game that's like, holy shit, dude. Like, look at this. They're doing it. Instead, it's actually, we're the best value in gaming thanks to Game Pass, and here's another Forza and Halo. And we bought Bethesda. Do you see what I'm saying? Do you see the difference? That's the point. That's the point, man. That's all I'm trying to get at. And I understand that I'm saying this at a time where it's like, bro, you're just going against the grain, man. You're just going against the grain. You're just asking for the Xbox dudes to come after you. And I'm like, I know. It is what it is, I'm not asking you to agree with me. I'm just asking you to hear me out. If you think I have a bad opinion, that's perfectly fine. But what's wrong with saving money? No, nothing at all, dude. That's what I'm saying. There's nothing wrong with that. That's why I said, dude. All I hear is diarrhea from MBG right now. It is what it is, man. All right, I got a few super chats to go over here. Nathan Drake 123, you say I already got that one, buddy. Sorry, I'm a little backed up here with these. Okay, so Leo Jimmy, no, got that one. Christopher, you're saying Xbox equals Forza Gears, Halo, Forza Gears, Halo, etc. And that's the thing. Like, I feel like they've gotten better with that. But I don't know, man. MBG, worth and value are two different things. Yes, you're absolutely right about that, Ben. And that's why I'm saying, like, Game Pass to me doesn't seem worth it because I just don't see a lot of value in the games that they're offering, dude. The most value I see from Game Pass, and this is true, I will give Game Pass this, man. Like, this is truly the greatest aspect of Game Pass. If you pay $10, dude, you can literally try out so many different games to find out if you like them. Rather than, and in that way, it's like, yeah, that will save you money. Because I will say, somebody who still buys games full price, the worst feeling in the world is getting burned by buying and supporting a game that you thought you were going to like. And you're like, oh, shit, this is not good. And I spent $60 on this. So I totally get it. I'm not trying to, keep in mind, I'm not shitting on Game Pass. It has good aspects. I'm not actually shitting on anything. I'm just simply trying to say, I don't get it. Like, I don't get the overhype for Xbox Studios right now. I just don't get it, bro. That's all I'm saying. Magnum Visuals, did you hear about Forza Horizon 5 being pirated on PC? Could that make up for the number of reported players playing the game? I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise. I think I saw something like 1 million players are already playing it, and that's great, man. That's great, but that's, I feel like, the least it should get. I mean, dude, look at where that game's sitting on Metacritic. It's being advertised everywhere, you know? I think the whole early access thing is fascinating because I think we're almost seeing Microsoft play this kind of like, well, maybe we can actually still get money from sales while still getting Game Pass subscriptions. It's actually kind of smart. How can you get it if you aren't even a Game Pass member? Well, I never said I never tried out Game Pass. Well, I never really did in the sense that I subscribed to Game Pass to play a specific game. I'm just saying that if there are games like Back 4 Blood is a great example. Like, Back 4 Blood is that kind of game where it's like, is this worth full price? That's a game where absolutely go try that out on Game Pass and find out for yourself. I mean, there was a beta too, but you know, if you didn't play the beta, absolutely, like, Game Pass, that's where, in my opinion, it absolutely shines. If like Starfield comes out, maybe it doesn't review as well as people expected, or maybe it's like, oh, it's really buggy or something. I think that's a realistic possibility. That might be something. Well, how buggy is it? Is it like unplayable buggy? You know, go try it out. You will be able to try it out. You see what I'm saying? And like, that's great, but that's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is the traditional sell me on your game. You want me to buy your game? You want me to care about your product? Give me a reason to. That doesn't just center around value. And I think Forza Horizon 5 is a great game to go into Game Pass. I'm getting on Microsoft because I'm like, oh, here's just another Forza. But it's also a great game where it's like, dude, you can't argue. Playing that game through Game Pass when it launches, you can't argue that. That is truly a quality game that you're getting inside of Game Pass. So, can't argue that aspect. Nick, thank you guys for the super chats, by the way. Nick, you're saying, I think as the generation goes on, Xbox will start to win more favor with the average gamer. The people who just play for a bit of fun after work and don't care about the console wars will probably be swayed by Xbox. Yeah, I mean, that's where I think that's truly the aspect that Sony's going to have to contend with. And I think we've already seen that this year, where Sony, they don't have to worry right now about console sales and the hype for their games, but they better believe, if they don't see it clearly, that, Xbox is out here doing work, bro, and winning that mind share. And that's absolutely the biggest thing, in my opinion, that Sony has to contend with. I know people are like, oh, Sony needs to make their own Game Pass competitor. And I'm like, well, I don't know that Sony has any intention of doing that, because it just doesn't seem like something they plan to do. What they should focus on is, okay, Xbox is effectively flipping the script through Game Pass. How do we continue to make sure that they don't like eat into our mind share doing so. That's what Sony needs to contend with, in my opinion, anyway. But man, if there's one thing Sony has proven is they will absolutely not bend, bro. And I don't necessarily think that's a good or a bad thing. It's just an observation. Like, dude, you remember all the conversation? Well, you know what? That's not true. Sony will bend when they are not confident. That's the best way to put it. Do you guys remember Destruction All-Stars? Now that's a Game Pass game. If I ever saw one, that Sony was like, we're going to charge $70. And I'm like, everybody, not just me, everybody's like, Sony, are you out of your goddamn mind? And they're like, wait, you guys don't want to pay $70 for this? And Jim Ryan's like looking at Herman's like, Herman, bro, they're not going to buy nobody's pre-ordering this game. And Herman's like, yeah, we should probably work out some kind of like, PS Plus deal. And the point is Sony wasn't confident in that game at all because they saw that like, okay, no one's pre-ordering it. No one seems to like it. This studio sold us on this game pitch. All right, we're going to have to put this on PS Plus. So Sony, they will bend when they have to, but the same conversation, not the same one, but a similar conversation happened with Returnal, where everybody was like, I don't know, $70. I don't know, man. This might not be worth it. This doesn't seem like it's going to be worth it. But Sony was like, nope, $70. We know this game's good. We know this is a top quality game, and it will be worth $70 to anybody who's interested in it. Now, I can't speak for everybody. I can only speak for myself, but yeah, I paid $70. I paid full price for the game, man. Put over 100 hours into it, got the platinum. I'm like, all right, like this was everything I hoped it would be. So I cannot, I would have never paid $70 for Destruction All-Stars, dude. That's just one of those games where you don't need to be gaming for very long to know like that ain't, are you at like $70? Come on. Dominic, you're saying, see, I'm an Xbox and PC dude, but PlayStation does create the best single player games on the regular. But let's not forget Halo 1 through 3 created things that consoles still have to this day, FPS Live multiplayer, and now it's Game Pass and Azer Tech. Yeah, and like, dude, you're not wrong. Like Xbox, if there's one thing Xbox has proven, I think recently, like specifically from the transition from the Xbox One to the current generation, is that they belong to an extent in the industry. Like and by that I mean like they're not ever going anywhere, at least not anytime soon. They're in it for the long haul, and they are willing, Microsoft that is willing to shake things up completely in order to make them a prominent player in this space. And so Halo 1 through 3, like you said, FPS Live multiplayer, that's something that Sony is now chasing themselves. They're like, we want some multiplayer games, we want some live service. So it's not like, what I'm saying is it's not like PlayStation can't learn anything from Xbox, right? They absolutely can. It's just, I think that for me, like you said, you're an Xbox and PC dude, but PlayStation does create the best single player games. Like for me, that's the gold standard that I look for in gaming these days, personally. And I just want to see Xbox flex that, man. Like, I mean, it's like they have all this money, they have all this power, and I'm like, I want to see what you can do with it other than buying known, quantities. I don't want to see. I mean, look, I know people are excited about the next Elder Scrolls, and that's great. That's going to be an exciting game, but that's not really what I was asking for from Microsoft. You know what I mean? Like, I was kind of asking for like, and this is why I honed in so much on Matt Booty's comment, because he literally said like, yeah, we haven't been one-to-one with these big tentpole titles and these worlds you can get lost in. He's like, well, I'm not going to tell you we're making our own Horizon or Uncharted, but it's like, I kind of hope you are. Not exactly like ripping those games off, but making games like that. Because those games, man, like you can do it. Like you are able to, you have the money. You just have to have the patience and the will. That's why I look so forward to Hellblade 2, man. Somebody said Hellblade 2 can compete with God of War Ragnarok. I don't know if I would go that far, but if there's any game that has the potential to be like a really standout, like this seems like a game that PlayStation would make and Xbox made it. Or it's an Xbox game. I think that's Hellblade. Leo Jimmy, you're saying, check this out, MBG. They can make subpar games for the rest of the gen, and most will get a nod because of the Game Pass narrative. A game like Vampire would now be a banger because the price is gone. Yeah, I mean, dude, that's the angle that Microsoft is playing that Sony is not. Sony is doing the literal opposite of that. Sony is like, you know what? Sony understands that their games are going to be judged much more critically than Xbox's games. And see, that's the thing here, people, that I can't stop thinking about it is people keep saying to me, dude, how come the ultimate version of Forza Horizon 5 isn't launching into Game Pass? How come they're charging for that? And to me, it's because it's obvious that Microsoft understands. Microsoft understands that, well, this is a really high quality game from our best studio. Now, look, we promised all of our games are going to go into Game Pass, and they're going to stick to that, but they're also like, but we do have this premium version over here that, you know, if you really like what you're seeing, you can buy it at full price. And we're just gonna leave it there for, what is it, like a week or something like that? We're gonna leave it there for a week. And I'm saying this because, dude, you better believe I tried telling people. I tried. You think Microsoft doesn't want to extract as much money out of you as they can? They absolutely do. They're just trying to find a way to do it without upsetting you. And that's what they're doing. In my opinion, that's what this Forza Horizon 5 Early Access Edition reveals, is that they do want money. They do want you to buy their games. So they're going to give it a week to let the reviews why do you think they lifted the review embargo with the Early Access version? I mean, they had to, but it makes sense, man. You're saying because they've always done that with Xbox. You can say the same on Sony charges us for upgrades. Dude, that's the thing, man, is I'm not, people think like I'm going to defend Sony for charging for upgrade. Like what, there's nothing to defend. Like they just want more money and they're going to find a way to get it. And that's how they get it. People confuse me, like me saying, yeah, I'll probably pay for it. You know, if they ask for it. I hope they don't. I don't want them to, but I'll probably pay for it. People confuse that as me defending them. You know, like look, if they want to charge $10 for their upgrades, they'll charge $10. I'm just saying, man, like everybody thinks that, I'm not even going to go on. At this point, I'm like a broken record. Bethesda is charging for the Skyrim upgrade. I want to check this out real quick. Skyrim. I saw some people complaining about this, and I really need to look into it. All right, so Skyrim Anniversary Edition will run you $49.99 or $20 to upgrade. What? All right, so Skyrim Anniversary Edition is out on November 11th, and Bethesda has provided pricing for the latest release of the title, which turns 10 next week. If you are buying the game for the first time, it will cost you $50. If you already own the current release, the Skyrim Special Edition, or are a Game Pass subscriber, you can purchase a digital-only upgrade for $20. If you are a PlayStation 5 or Xbox Series user and you own the Skyrim Special Edition or purchase the Anniversary Edition, you will receive a next-gen upgrade for the game for free. So there's that. So I don't know. I mean, if you can purchase the digital-only upgrade. Yeah, I don't know, man. This is why I'm just trying to say, like, it's just, it is what it is. You know, like, I'm not even going to go on about it because I've tried explaining. You're saying it's for content, bro. I'm not saying it isn't. My whole thing is I've tried to explain to people, like, people need to stop acting like these companies don't want your money when they do. They want you to like them and they want you to be happy with them, but they want your money too. And that's just how it is. But to be honest, Skyrim's an absolute joke in my opinion. I'm just going to be real right now. You want to talk about a joke? The amount of times that Bethesda has resold Skyrim, like get out of here, man. It's a disgrace. Christopher, you're saying, to be fair, Sony is going in the same direction as Microsoft this gen. They won't have new IP. They will be God of War, Horizon, Uncharted, Spider-Man, etc., the same as PS4. We'll see about that, man. I have no doubt in my mind that they will triple and quadruple down on those IP. Like, what was concerning to me is, like, did you see the we talked about it in a video where Guerrilla Games was hiring for basically for another studio to make like an offshoot of Horizon or something. And like people are like, uh-oh, like, are they going to start milking Horizon now? And I'm like, well, I mean, we'll have to see. They might. But I don't know, man. I don't think Sony is following Microsoft. I think that Sony is trying to like, if I just knowing Sony as well as I do, and this isn't like a compliment or anything, but I think Sony is just trying to see how much money can we effectively extract without really making our fan base upset and causing too much backlash. I think that's what Sony's doing. To whereas I feel like Microsoft, they absolutely are like, look, we need to win the mind share back. You know, MBG, you don't know Sony. No, I don't really know them that well. I mean, I just follow their announcements and stuff, you know, and the games they release. Kyrie Williams, you're saying, why are you expecting Xbox to be at that certain level when it takes time to even get to that level? Y'all sound delusional over there. Well, I mean, dude, has Xbox not had more than enough time? I'm just saying, man, like, it's not... Look, man, all I can say is people frequently came to me and they're like, MBG the flip-flopper, just wait until Xbox makes the comeback and watch how quickly MBG turns and goes back to Xbox, because that's all I do it for, right? It's just for clout and it's for viewership. That's all. It wasn't because I actually enjoyed what PlayStation was offering. And you know what? I hate to break it to everybody, but that time is pretty much now. If I wanted to be that flip-flop and be like, you know what, guys, Xbox did it. Doesn't Halo look great? Forza Horizon 5, bros. Hey, Game Pass. I mean, Game Pass would have been the ticket, but it's not, because I don't care. Like, I've said it. I said it back in 2018, and I'll say it again now on the cusp of being, you know, right there in 2022. I just want some really good games from Xbox that aren't Halo, Gears, and Forza. That's what I want. I said it back then, and I'm saying it now. That's just how it is. I don't think anybody's delusional over here, man. I really don't. I just think that people kind of look at Xbox and they're like, some people are sold, some people are not. And I think those of us who are not, you can't say, you're saying that takes time. Of course it does, but how much time? Xbox is about to celebrate their 20th anniversary, man. You know, 20 years isn't enough. Kaz Jam, you're saying Xbox as an underdog gets so much praise for doing so little. And that's part of it. That's part of the human psychology, man, is Xbox has been the underdog for a long time. Therefore, the little win is a big win. And that's fine. That's fine. But the pendulum swings. That's the point. The pendulum absolutely swings back and forth. E-Man 2537, you kind of proved the point of Game Pass. You can try the game out to see if you like it and still buy the game if you do nothing. If you do nothing, is it keeping you from buying? Still buy the game if you do nothing is keeping you from buying. Well, that's the thing, man, is I'm not trying to make it sound like Game Pass doesn't have its place, because it clearly does. Game Pass has its place. But it's just, I don't know. I'm just of the mindset, like, there's a reason why everybody was like, dude, Battlefield 2042 is going to be in Game Pass. And it might still at some point. But do you guys remember that there was so much confidence that, Battlefield, the next Battlefield is going to be in Game Pass? And it's not. It's not. Do you know why that is? Do you know why Game Pass, to me, seems like the place where games that might not sell that well go to live? That's how I see it. Now, I'm not talking about Microsoft Studio games because, no, I'm not saying Skyrim wouldn't sell well. I'm not saying that. I'm talking like from third party and stuff because everybody wants to talk about how, oh, Game Pass is the future. And I'm like, I'm shocked. No, it's not. I mean, I know people want to be like, oh, it's because EA is greedy. Well, yeah, but it's because they know Battlefield will sell like crazy. That's why. That's why it's not. Why do you think a game like Back 4 Blood was in Game Pass? Because, dude, if you look at the track record of Turtle Rock, their last game was Evolve. And that was a fucking train wreck, dude. So, you know, before that, the other game that launched with Game Pass was Outriders. And it's like, do you guys remember what that conversation was like? Do you see what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying the reason why I gravitate more towards like the idea of EA being like, please buy our game at full price. It's because, well, if you're asking me to buy your game at full price and you're not throwing it into a $10 subscription service, it's probably because it's pretty high quality. The two are interconnected together. That's what I'm saying. You know what surprises me a little bit? Is that more publishers are not pushing back against Microsoft. Because if anything, more publishers should be on Sony's side. Because everybody's like, oh, Sony's greedy. You're saying MBG spoken like someone who has never had Game Pass. Dude, what I said is true, man. People thought Battlefield was going to go into Game Pass, and it's not. It's not because it's going to sell millions and millions of copies. And if it went on Game Pass, millions of those sales could potentially be lost just like that. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm fairly sure that the reason why Square Enix took the paycheck or the check that Microsoft gave to get Outriders in the Game Pass, and the reason why WB took the check for Back 4 Blood to get into Game Pass is because they were not feeling so confident about those games. Probably based off of pre-order numbers. So I love how this dude Johnny Utah in the chat is like, your opinion is invalid. Like, dude, why are you here then? Why are you here? Like, you don't have to dude, just millions of opinions on the internet, bro. Why are you choosing to listen to mine if it's so invalid? But I'm just like, I'm not saying that that's precisely why, but for me, I just feel more confident in a publisher that says we want you to pay full price for our games. You know, it's like, well, I mean, if you expect me to pay full price, you know what I expect in return. You know what I expect. And if they don't meet that, well, they get burned for it, you know? Whereas I feel like you said, that doesn't really happen with Game Pass. With Game Pass, and that's why I support Sony's model so much, because they seem to really kind of be honing in on that. MBG, did you play Guardians of the Galaxy? You would love the soundtrack. I haven't yet, no. All right, let me see here. I got Spud, you're saying, hey, MBG, just chiming in to say your homepage looks freaking awesome. Good job on that. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. That's actually a credit to Rick. Rick, my guy who does the artwork here. He does a great job. Christopher, you're saying, LOL, Xbox says you get all games day one, yet they do early access. That's just them changing the release date without actually changing the date, LOL. I mean, people are just going to say you don't have to buy it, and that's true, you don't. And I agree. Like, if you're not confident in Forza Horizon 5, or you don't want the early access edition or whatever, then you probably should just wait for it to drop on the Game Pass. But it's true, man. Rashdown V2, it's not just early access. It has expansions plus packs. Okay, well, then I guess you're getting more bang for your buck there. But I feel like, well, I remember, to be honest, before Game Pass, didn't Xbox used to do that before Game Pass? A and B, you're saying watching your podcast mainly for your talent to keep an audience invested for hours. Also amazing handling of even the most negative super chat comments. Thank you. I appreciate it. I mean, it's because I try not to take it like overly seriously. Like I understand that. Look, I told you, I go back to last year and I had podcasts that had, there was like one podcast that had like 110,000 views, a podcast of mine. And do you know what that podcast content was like? Of course you do. Of course you do. Those of you here right now, very similar to this. And this is why I say, dude, Xbox absolutely turned it around. Because people, they don't see it that way anymore. The stuff I was saying then is pretty close to what I'm saying now, though there are certainly differences. But you're saying something hate related, not hate, just being basically critical, especially at that time because the new Xbox and PS5 they're going head to head. But I was basically saying a lot of similar things where it's like, and it's just so interesting to me how I'm telling you, man, do you really want to know where Xbox truly turned the corner? Like where they really, I mean, they changed everything, man. It was when they bought Bethesda. I'm telling you, I saw the tidal wave of hype like for Xbox. It was like a tsunami of hype for Xbox, bro, when they bought Bethesda. And I'm like, that was it. That combined with Game Pass, boom. That was a 1-2 punch. That didn't necessarily hit Sony or like it wasn't necessarily geared towards Sony, but that was a huge moment, man, for Xbox. And I've just noticed that ever since that happened, they pretty much, yeah, I mean, they've just been on an uptrend. And I that's just the way it is. I don't think there's anything. And yet, I know, Capono, you're saying you've been asking for competition. I am. Again, I wasn't expecting it to, like, dude, I swear, man, if you go back to before Microsoft bought Bethesda, I would have never imagined in a million years that would have happened. Like, I'm like, no way. Like, no, really? Like, current MBG, if I could go back to past MBG and be like, past MBG, hold on now. What if I told you that the way Microsoft plans to compete is they're going to buy all of Bethesda and put those games onto Game Pass and keep PlayStation fans from playing them? They're not going to release them on PlayStation. I would have been like, future MBG, how do I know you're not secretly an Xbot now and you're trying to screw it up? All right, I'm really going off the rails with this, but I'm just saying I would have never saw that coming, Saying MBG, you say Xbox has turned it around when Game Pass has been around 4 years and is only 17 to 20 million active users. You can't put a dollar amount on conjecture. Well, I mean, look, it depends on who you, like, I'm not part of Microsoft and I'm certainly not in their boardrooms when it comes to, well, what counts as success and what doesn't. Microsoft may look at that as a big success, man. I don't know. But I don't know what their expectations are, so I can't comment on it. Like you said, I don't know what that means. That's why I just kind of focus on the games themselves most of the time. Like what games are going in there. I think Microsoft's big plan is, and I'm just being honest here. I think that Microsoft is not going to be able to convince third-party partners and publishers to put big AAA games on the Game Pass. They're going to have to buy them. And that's why I'm saying I'm surprised more publishers aren't going closer to Sony, because Sony's like, dude, we want people to buy our games. And most of the time, that's what a publisher would want. They want people to buy their games. So, I don't know. MBG, imagine if you're the CEO of Xbox, what will you do to make it better? It's just a scenario. I mean, dude, you don't want me as the CEO of Xbox. We're shutting it down. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I mean, if I could make decisions at Xbox, I would literally be looking at Matt Booty and I'd be like, you know, man, you're the one that's in charge of our first party. I really, really want you to like seriously try to create some games that like don't make your own God of War, but kind of make your own God of War, if you get what I'm saying. Like, I want a game like that, but I want it to be Xbox, like just Xbox. It does like, you know what I mean? Like, don't copy it to a T. Like, new characters, different world, different setting, all that stuff, different gameplay mechanics, but just that type of like, yeah, something really high up there like that, you know? That's what I think that would be cool. But that's just me. And that's because I'm, you know, again, like I am like an armchair analyst here. Like, I don't know how to run these things, man. I always said, dude, Phil Spencer, you're fired, MBG. Phil Spencer absolutely saved Xbox, bro. And the PS4 saved PlayStation, for sure. You know? If anything, what we're seeing this gen is just both of those kind of tripling down. This podcast went off the rails, as it always does, man. It happens every time, dude. But I don't know. I feel like you guys, at this point, anybody who's still watching, they clearly like it when it goes off the rails. Christopher, you're saying Microsoft tried to compete with PlayStation with their quadruple A studio, The Initiative, and they had to contract Crystal Dynamics for help. Microsoft just doesn't have the talent. You know what the funniest thing about that is? Everybody's like, yeah, this is great. Crystal Dynamics is going to help work on this Initiative game. And I'm like, dude, Square Enix literally just shit all over their own studio. They literally came out and they're like, yeah, we're disappointed in this game, the Avengers, and Crystal Dynamics, not the right team for it. And I'm just like, yikes, yikes. Like, you got all these dudes out here being like, yeah, that's right. Crystal Dynamics is going to pull it together over there at Xbox. I'm like, did you just hear? Like, I'm almost of the mindset at this point that the reason why Crystal Dynamics is working on that game is because Square Enix was like, Square Enix is like, we need you to make money for us. And you're like, you screwed up the Avengers. You're not making money for us. You're losing us money. So we're going to get a guaranteed paycheck. Go help with the development of that game. We'll take the paycheck for our services. Go make that game for them. I swear, dude, that's what happened. And everybody's like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. And I'm like, okay, sure. Last time I checked, the Avengers was a disaster. But I haven't played it, so what do I know? Christopher, you're also saying Xbox buying Bethesda equals we can't seem to make games as good as PlayStation on our own. Let's just take a bunch of third-party games away from other players, LOL. Well, dude, you can't say that, man. You can't say that because remember, Bethesda and Microsoft had a relationship, so you can't say that. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's gotten to a point where even if you try to point out the obvious, because, Christopher, what you just said, that is the truth, man. MBG, don't you think it's healthy to listen to those whom you disagree with? Oh, yeah, for sure. Dude, I kid you not, man. I really tried for a long time, bro. Like, I was listening to all the Xbox content creators. I was listening to all the Xbox podcasts. I still do listen to some Xbox podcasts occasionally. And this is why I just don't care anymore because, dude, like, they're just the antithesis to me. That's all it is. Like, that's how it has to be, man. You know? It's why they don't come out here and they don't say positive things about Sony's state of play. They're the same people who, I remember back in like XO18 or 19, it was like a ridiculous showcase from Xbox. They're the same people that were like, well, I mean, this wasn't too bad and that was pretty good. And in reality, everybody's like, dude, it was trash. Come on, it wasn't good at all. But they're out here being like, yeah, you know, it was fine. But there'll be the same people that'll come out here and be like, yo, let me tell you why Sony State of Play was a fucking joke, bro. And I'm like, okay. You see what I'm saying? That's why I just don't listen anymore because some people I listen to, I feel like I do learn a couple things and some people do make some really great points. And then other people I listen to, it's just like, you just know that they don't like PlayStation. They never will. They never have. At least with me. And I'm not trying to like, look, if you think, you know, I'm not saying I'm somebody you should listen to when it comes to Xbox related stuff, but at least I come from Xbox, man. Like I was there and I did like something about them, you know, but It is what it is. But yeah, as I said, so I did want to touch on this one topic. This is going to go on to be a long podcast. I did want to touch on this one topic before we, kind of finish out the podcast. So again, it's talking about Elden Ring. And I saw this conversation kind of pop up regarding Elden Ring where there was like a lot of negativity, or at least a fair amount of negativity geared towards the graphical quality of the game. And I'm extremely excited for Elden Ring, but I saw some people making comparisons to like Blue Point Games. For like, damn, Blue Point Games is absolutely outclassing From Software. And I'm like, okay, well, this is kind of unfair. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is truly, and this is somebody who, I love the Demon Souls remake, and I think Blue Point is absolutely, I still think Demon Souls is the best looking game on PS5 still, But come on now. Like, it's a little bit unfair, Like, first of all, nobody's going to From Software being like, we need you to create a graphical showpiece. That's just not what From Software does. From Software makes just great video games, great video game worlds, and great video game boss fights. And that's what they do. Like, they specialize in really creating something very unique and interesting that nobody else can. And people are not looking at, I guess you could say, you're saying, MBG, you realize the fact that you praise games based on their graphics contributes to this mindset, right? I totally understand that, but that's where you could take a game like Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. And I feel like that's the game I want to point to, because that is like the big game where it's like, oh my God, look at how graphically amazing this game looks. It could look not as good and still be just as good of a game. But I'm just trying to say that Elden Ring is a multi-plat game that's releasing on everything. It's also a game where, I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess you're right about that, man. But I feel like I can't agree with this argument with like Demon Souls, because Demon Souls it's an older game that's being remade. It's not being ported to a bunch of different platforms. It's only being remade for PS5, and it's pretty much, it's also not open world. We have to remember that as well. You take all these things, you stack that up against, that's exactly what Elden Ring is. The one argument that people were making about Elden Ring that I think is kind of fair is like, some people were like, well, this is supposed to be a brand new series and or a brand new IP, but it basically looks just like Dark Souls. And the reason it looks just like Dark Souls is because of the animation work. The animation work is pretty much Dark Souls 3 to an extent. There's obviously new animations, but by and large, it looks like that. And I think that's a perfectly fair criticism. But at the same time, for somebody like me, I feel like, Dark Souls 1 through 3, some of the greatest games ever made. I absolutely loved everything about Dark Souls 3. So if they want to basically keep that and put that into a new world with new lore, new enemies, new environments, new boss fights, all that good stuff, then I'm perfectly fine with that. So MBG criticizes Halo Infinite because of its graphics and ignores everything else. Now he's being a hypocrite based off what he's saying about Elden Ring. Graphics aren't everything. Whoa. Dude, hold on. Pump the brakes there, Matt McDonald Media. You got to realize, dude, part of the reason I put so much weight on certain graphical qualities being hit is because, let's remember now, all right? And this is just the fact, dude. Microsoft was out here touting the 12 T-flops, just like Microsoft was touting the SSD. And part of that is, hey, Halo Infinite is your big next-gen game. Oh, wait, it's not next-gen, it's cross-gen. Okay, fine, but it's your big flagship title. I mean, part of that allure and part of that responsibility is it's got to look good, man. Like, it can't just look okay. Dude, Elden Ring, the way, like, graphically, the way that game looks right now, Elden Ring, if it was a next-gen only game, oh yeah, this would be unacceptable, man. It wouldn't have to look like as good as, I don't know, some of the other games we talk about, but it wouldn't be acceptable. But it's not a next gen only game. And you can very clearly see that. I don't expect Elden Ring to look as good as Horizon Forbidden West. I just don't. But I do expect Halo Infinite to at least be able to compete with how good a game like Horizon Forbidden West looks, or a game like Spider-Man Miles Morales, because that's part of it, man. That's part of it. I'm just saying, like, you don't have to agree with me, but you can't call me a hypocrite. This is what Xbox did. Just like if Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart ends up releasing on PC, if it ever does, then yeah, I'll call Sony out on that and be like, what are you guys doing? Like, you just straight up lied, you know what I mean? To an extent. You just misled people. But that's not the situation. And I probably should have just said this as well. I've made it clear multiple times, and I don't mean to go like super defense force here, but I did make it clear multiple times. I've said time and time again, dude, Halo fans are happy with Halo, and it seems like they're happy with it because of the gameplay, and that's what matters. Gameplay truly is king. Saying Halo runs at 60 FPS on the Series X, single player runs at 30 FPS. You can't say FPS games look like Horizon Forbidden West when it hits 60 on old gen, and Horizon doesn't run at 60 FPS on last gen, bro. Saying MBG, no, it wouldn't. What the F? Elden Ring would be superior to most Sony exclusives. The art direction surpasses the value of graphics in Sony games. That's true. I agree with that. Art direction is probably key in most areas. MBG, so we spent all of 2020 talking about power just to go back to talk about gameplay. What are we doing here? No, dude, I encourage you, if you're referring to any time I was talking about how powerful the PS5 would be, any of my videos talking about that, I always put a disclaimer saying, look, the power is not the be-all, end-all. The specs are not the be-all, end-all. We know the games are. I said that every time, dude. I'm not trying to go out of my way to defend myself because it doesn't matter. I'm just, maybe people forget. Like, I've always made it about the games. I always did. You're saying it's subjective, though? Yeah, no, that's true, man. It's all subjective at the end of the day. All of it. Gears was always a graphical showpiece for Xbox. Yeah, that's true. Gears always looks good. I mean, Forza Horizon 5 looks really good. I mean, I talked a lot about Forza Horizon 5 during the stream, but one thing I didn't mention is I will admit, I think it's the first game that really, I think, lets the Xbox Series X shine. I'm just shocked that Halo isn't that game, man. Like, I really thought Halo was going to be that game, but I think Forza Horizon 5 takes the visual crown for Xbox, for sure. Out of the gate, anyway. Are you saying MBG? I'm talking about the Xbox fans, LOL. Oh, okay. Well, that makes more sense now. Christopher, you're saying Elden Ring looks like a PS4 game because it is one. You're also saying, why can't Elden Ring look as good as Forbidden West? They are both cross-gen games. Forbidden West is being held back by PS4 as well. So will Ragnarok. Well, I'll put it to you this way, man. I praise Horizon Forbidden West for how good it looks because it looks really, really, really good. It does. And it's especially impressive when you realize it's a cross-gen game. But if Horizon Forbidden West didn't look as good as it does, and it maybe looked slightly less, like maybe not as good, I would still be hyping that game, dude, because it looks great. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a game I'm still gonna play and enjoy the hell out of. And I feel like that's why I can't really be as hard on Elden Ring, because it's just like, I don't know, man. Like if it's because if the hard truth of the matter is like, look, man, From Software just simply isn't talented enough to make a game that graphically impressive, they get a pass from me, dude. Like that, like From Software, absolutely. I don't care. Their game is going to be great. Like Elden Ring's going to be great no matter what. And I do think the art style it goes a long way. I think it looks great. So I don't know. I know it comes off as like, oh, you're picking and choosing, but it's not so much that. It's what's behind it. Sony wants to put out a first party cross-gen game, my expectation is, well, Sony's been known to really knock it out of the park graphically. So I have very high expectations. From Software wants to put out a new game. I'm going to be honest. I'm not thinking about graphics. I'm just, and you know what? That's because From Software never gave me a reason to think about graphics. From Software is not a platform holder that's releasing a console where their job is to sell me on how pretty the game's going to look. It's just not. And so I feel like there's nuance to it, is what I'm trying to say. So anyway, look, here's the point. Blue Point Games, phenomenal job on Demon's Souls Remake. I think it's still the best looking game on PS5 to date. Really is. Saying From Software just does their thing. Exactly. Elden Ring looks amazing. It looks like the next iteration of a From Software game that everything I could have hoped for. So with that, it's like, hey, I'm fine. Just to throw Halo into the conversation because that's part of it. I don't think Halo looks that impressive at all. For a game that's supposed to be a flagship title for the Xbox Series X, it doesn't. Do I think it looks bad? As in, like, no, this gameplay looks horrible. No, I don't. I think it looks fine. I think Halo fans, as I said, are happy with it, and that's what matters. So that's how I look at it. Saying Halo looks average, yeah. I mean, I feel like here's how I look at it. If you want the graphical showpiece for Xbox, you want Forza Horizon 5. If you want the Halo experience that you're hoping to get, maybe just not from a graphical perspective, you just want that Halo gameplay, well, there you go. You got Halo Infinite. So, I don't know. I guess at this point, I don't know. I feel like I've been rambling for so long. I don't even know. Clearly, the topics just went off the rails, and it just turned into, I don't know, PlayStation, Xbox talk as it always does. I don't know, man. I feel like sometimes I feel like when I try to think of like a format for my podcast, it just doesn't work out too well because I don't think you guys come to my podcast for that, like, okay, we're just going to go down the line of each topic and we're just going to go through the motions. I think it's very much has to be more of a reactionary type thing. And I think that, I could be wrong. You guys might not like that. I just might be saying this because that's what I do every time. But Shane Ramsey, you're saying, will Forspoken be the first game to really push the PS5 software? No, I don't think so. Forspoken is also going to be on PC. I think it's going to look really good, and I think the fact it will only be on PS5 and PC will help it, but you have to look at that minimum spec requirement, I think, to really get a good idea of like what you can really expect, and we won't know about that for some time. Also, thank you for being a member for 13 months, man. Really appreciate it. But yeah, so I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to take a look really quick at my document here and see if there's one of the things I did mention was new PS5 tech. I don't know, man. I think I might just, I'm looking at my podcast right now. Okay. And I'm looking at my title, PlayStation PC leak. We talked about that. Forza Horizon 5 talked about that. New PS5 tech. We didn't talk about that. But if you're interested in that, I talked about it in my video from yesterday. And Elden Ring. Yeah, so I might have to edit a few things. But I think that's pretty much it, guys. I don't really think there's much else we can extract from this. I don't know. One last thing I want to say here too is like people I think always wonder why. They're like, dude, MBG, why, man? Why are you spending so much time talking about like the console war BS and talking about Xbox and what they're doing? There's a PlayStation podcast, and I'm just gonna be real with you guys right now. Like, I don't know, like during times like this, PlayStation's so quiet, like there's just not much going on. What do I do? What am I going to talk about? I tried to keep it as PlayStation focused as I could with the PlayStation PC leak. And most of you guys don't seem to mind when we veer off into that territory. And I just feel, I don't know, man. I just feel like that's how it is. But I did say this earlier, and I'll end the podcast here because this is a very long podcast. My hope is that like once yeah, you're mentioning the Devolver Digital thing, man. I don't know what to say about it, really. I put that down as a topic and I'm like, oh, this will be interesting. And I'm like, but I don't know what to say other than that's what they did. They made a 5%, Sony made a 5% investment in Devolver Digital. I will say this. I know I'm really late to it, over 3 hours into the podcast. That put the final nail in the coffin. You guys remember earlier this year, there was all that conversation about, well, Sony doesn't support indies and Sony doesn't care about indies. I'm like, well, you know what? They just they obviously do support indies. If the indie focused state of plays weren't enough for you, well, here you go. Now they put a 5% investment to help support indies. So there you go. All right. But yeah, I don't know. My goal is when PlayStation starts, when they start revving the engine again and things start to pick up, I really want to try to be able to focus the conversation just more on PlayStation, because I understand that Xbox fans, they're fine, like they're doing their thing. They're having a good old time. And they're like, we don't need your opinions on Xbox anymore, MBG. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I don't know. I got to retire from the Xbox talk at some point. It's got to happen. So people are like, yeah, that's right. PlayStation fans playing the waiting game now. I'm like, I mean, you're not wrong. I'm over here. I'm waiting until February, bro. I'm waiting until February. So that's true. That's true for now. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this episode of the podcast, though. I really do appreciate your support. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Thank you for all the super chats. Thank you to all my members. Do me one big favor before you leave. Hit that like button on your way out. Get over 500 likes. Obviously, if you didn't like what I had to say, you probably already hit the dislike button, but appreciate any likes you can offer the stream. It helps it out. My hope is that next week, episode 83 of the podcast, I'm hoping that more happens this week with PlayStation. We get some more news or just some more interesting things that happen that lead to some interesting conversation. That's my hope. Hopefully that'll become a reality. But all right, guys, that's episode 82 of the podcast in the books. It's going to do it. I'm going to go get something to eat. And I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Enjoy your Sunday. And look forward to the regularly scheduled content coming tomorrow and through the remainder of the week. All right, guys. Take care.